Good morning, everyone. A beautiful morning from our beautiful Cairo. It's my pleasure and honor to be with you here today. My name is Khaled Habib, Dr. Khaled Habib, and I will be accompanying you for the first half of the day today in one, in my personal opinion, of the most important and crucial and valuable events that will take place for
Good morning,
the
everyone. A beautiful morning
for
from
the whole
our
region
beautiful
in the coming
Cairo.
period. It's my pleasure and honor to be with you here today. My name is Khaled Habib, Dr. Khaled Habib, and I will be accompanying you for the first half of the day today in one, in my personal opinion, of the most important and crucial and valuable events that will take place for. Okay. So, first of all, let me apologize. I know there were some technical issues in the morning. It's still the different world we're living in today with the COVID, post-COVID, and we don't know how long it's going to stay. So lots of people online, lots of people having difficulties coming to the place and so on. So we do apologize for this. But I can assure you that the value you're going to get from these 4 days is going to be tremendous. We have with us on our agenda very important topics to discuss. We've got lots of senior experts in different areas, and we've got real minds that we're going to cover every part of the value chain. Let's remember this part. We're going to be talking about everything related to the whole value chain about energy. So meetMED, it's a week, and this week it's all about energy. It's all about renewable energy. So it's a great event. It's organized totally by RICRI. Today, what we're doing over here is all about switching to clean energy. And it's all about tackling every component of the value chain. We're talking about policies, we're talking about best practices, we're talking about people capability, capacity building, we're talking about changing on the ground, we're talking about practical programs that will tackle and address the most difficult sectors, whether it's home appliances or building or whatever. And we have our experts to tell us how it has been done, the best practices, what can be done, how can we learn from each other across the Mediterranean countries all together. Let me not waste time and start straight away with our very senior speakers and guests today. Our starting session, let me just tell you how the days will run. So we're going to go through different activities. We're starting right now with the welcome speeches, and let me first invite our dear Executive Director, the Regional Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, RICRI, Jawad Al-Kharaz, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khalid. With your permission, I will deliver my message in Arabic. صباح الخير، سعادة المهندسة جميلة مطر، رئيس قسم الطاقة في جامعة الدول العربية، معالي السفير كريستيان بيرجر، رئيس الوفد الاتحاد الأوروبي في مصر، معالي قنصل الجمهورية البلغارية إيفالو ستويلوف، سعادة الدكتور جورجيو غراديتي، رئيس الاتحاد المتوسطي لوكالات الطاقة، الوكالات الوطنية لحفظ الطاقة ميدينير، سعادة المهندسة مها مصطفى، رئيسة اللجنة التنفيذية في ريكري، ممثلة عن جمهورية مصر العربية ووكيل وزارة الكهرباء والطاقة المتجددة المصرية سابقا. الدكتور أحمد البلطاجي اعتذر في هذا الصباح، حدث له حالة وفاة، خالص التعازي له ولعائلته. أصحاب المعالي السفراء، ممثل البعثة الدبلوماسية في جمهورية مصر العربية، السيدات والسادة الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إنه لمن دواعي فخري وسروري أن أفتتح أول نسخة من أسبوع المشروع الإقليمي ميتمد 2 هنا في قاهرة المعز في جمهورية مصر العربية باسم المركز الإقليمي للطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة ريكري واتحاد البحر الأبيض المتوسط للوكالات الوطنية لحفظ الطاقة ميدينير. إنه لمن دواعي فخري وسروري أن أفتتح أول نسخة من أسبوع المشروع الإقليمي ميتمد 2 هنا في قاهرة المعز في جمهورية مصر العربية باسم المركز الإقليمي للطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة ريكري واتحاد البحر الأبيض المتوسط للوكالات الوطنية لحفظ الطاقة ميدينير. إنه لمن دواعي نرحب بجميع الشركاء والضيوف الأعزاء الذين حضروا من مصر وخارج مصر من كل البلدان المشاركة في المشروع، من تونس والجزائر والمغرب ولبنان والأردن وفلسطين ومصر وليبيا، فضلا عن ضيوفنا من شمال المتوسط والعالم. ونشكر الاتحاد الأوروبي وممثليه على دعمهم لمشروع ميتمد وحرصهم على دعم التعاون في مجالات الطاقة والتخفيف من أثر التغيرات المناخية في دول جنوب شرق البحر الأبيض المتوسط. كما نغتنم الفرصة لشكر جمهورية مصر العربية على استضافة المركز ودعمه من خلال وزارة الكهرباء والطاقة المتجددة التي ما فتئت تدعم أنشطتنا وجهودنا في مجالات الطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة والحد من تأثير التغيرات المناخية منذ تأسيس المركز عام 2008. والمركز الإقليمي للطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة ريكري منظمة دولية ذات صفة دبلوماسية تسعى إلى تفعيل وزيادة الاستفادة من ممارسات الطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة في المنطقة العربية. كذلك يعد المركز الذراع الفني لإدارة الطاقة جميع الدول العربية والمجلس الوزاري العربي للكهرباء، ويسعى فريق المركز بالتعاون مع الحكومات والمنظمات الدولية ومؤسسات التمويل الدولية والقطاع الخاص عن طريق الشراكات المختلفة لبدء وتوجيه حوارات سياسات الطاقة المستدامة واستراتيجياتها وتقنياتها وتطوير قدراتها وإدارة منصات لتسهيل استثمارات الطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة لزيادة حصة الدول العربية من طاقة الغد. السيدات والسادة الحضور، في نهاية عام 2018 نجح المركز الإقليمي للطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة ريكري بالتعاون مع اتحاد البحر الأبيض المتوسط للوكالات الوطنية لحفظ الطاقة ميدينير في الحصول على ثقة المفوضية الأوروبية إدارة التعاون مع دول الجوار ديجينير لتنفيذ مشروع تكميل أو تمكين الانتقال الطاقي في منطقة المتوسط من خلال إجراءات التخفيف البيئية meetMED. وامتد المشروع على مدى سنة ونصف لدعم التعاون الإقليمي وبناء القدرات الفنية لتمكين الانتقال الطاقي في دول جنوب وشرق البحر الأبيض المتوسط من خلال تعزيز حصة مصادر الطاقة المتجددة وتطوير الآليات كفاءة الطاقة ضمن مزيج الطاقة الخاصة بهم. وبعد نجاح المرحلة الأولى بدأ المشروع في المرحلة الثانية السنة الماضية بهدف تعزيز أمن الطاقة للدول المستهدفة وهي الجزائر، مصر، الأردن، لبنان، ليبيا، المغرب وفلسطين وتونس، وانتقالها إلى اقتصاد يعتمد على الطاقة النظيفة مما يساهم في خلق مجتمعات واقتصادات مستقرة وفعالة وتنافسية ومقاومة للتغير المناخي. ويعمل مشروع meetMED في المرحلة الثانية الممتدة حتى عام 2024 على تشجيع ودفع تنفيذ تدابير كفاءة الطاقة وتحسين مزيج الطاقة في دول المشروع مع التركيز على قطاع المباني والأجهزة المنزلية. ويعتمد المشروع على تعزيز التعاون الإقليمي من خلال دعم الشراكات على المستوى المحلي والإقليمي في مختلف القطاعات. وتنعقد هذه النسخة الأولى من أسبوع meetMED من اليوم إلى غاية 31 في الشهر، وهي الأولى في سلسلة مؤتمرات الطاقة الإقليمية السنوية التي تنظمها ميدينير وريكري بدعم الاتحاد الأوروبي. وتعقد نسخة هذا العام تحت شعار معا نحو مبان وأجهزة كفء في منطقة البحر الأبيض المتوسط، من خلال موضوعات 4: الاستثمار في الطاقة المستدامة، الإجراءات المتضافرة على المباني، الإجراءات المتضافرة على الأجهزة، وتتبع أو مراقبة أو تتبع كفاءة الطاقة. أصحاب المعالي السيدات والسادة الحضور الكريم، يعيش العالم منعطفا حرجا سيكون له أثر كبير على التوجهات الدولية وخاصة في قطاع الطاقة. الأزمة في شرق أوروبا خيمت بظلالها الثقيلة على اقتصادية العالم وأججت أسعار الوقود والمواد الأساسية وزادت من تفاقم الضائقة الاقتصادية التي بدأت مع جائحة كورونا ولم تعطي الأزمة للعالم فرصة لالتقاط أنفاسه. وسيدفع الوضع في شرق أوروبا لا محالة دول العالم إلى إعادة التفكير في التحول نحو استخدام المصادر المتجددة لإنتاج الكهرباء باعتبارها ضرورة ملحة وليس ترفا، كما تسلط الضوء على صواب رؤية الاتحاد الأوروبي من خلال دعم مشاريع التعاون الإقليمية كمشروع meetMED. من جهة أخرى تستضيف كما تعلمون مصر هذه السنة مؤتمر الأطراف لاتفاق الأمم المتحدة للمناخ لتغير المناخ COP27، وستكون فرصة ليس فقط لمصر لكن كل دول المنطقة لتسليط الأضواء على مجهوداتها لتخفيف من التأثيرات التغيرات المناخية، خاصة وقد أضحى الإسراع باعتماد الممارسات الفضلى في مجال الكفاءة الطاقية أمرا حتميا بالنسبة للمجتمع الدولي في ظل الطابع الطارئ للتغيرات المناخية، وكذلك باعتبار الكفاءة الطاقية مجالا جديرا بالتطوير نحو انتقال طاقوي ناجح على المستوى العالمي وفي منطقتنا المتوسطية. كما أنه معلوم أن الطاقة المتجددة تستأثر بالقسط الأكبر من الاستثمارات، فيما تتطلب الكفاءة الطاقية قسطا أكبر بكثير من الاستثمارات، خصوصا وأنها ذات أثر بيئي مباشر ومردودية اقتصادية مهمة للغاية. فكفاءة الطاقة كما تعلمون هي الوقود الأول، لكنها تظل أصعب في التجارة لأنك لا تستطيع قياسها مثل الكهرباء أو أن تزنها مثل الفحم أو تبيعها بالبرميل مثل النفط. ويمثل استخدام الطاقة في المباني كما يقرب من ثلث استهلاك الطاقة العالمية، ويمثل ما يقرب من 20% من انبعاثات غازات الدفيئة. ومع تزايد عدد السكان والنمو السريع في القوة الشرائية في الاقتصادات الناشئة والعديد من البلدان المتوسطية، سيزداد الطلب على الطاقة في المباني بنسبة 50% بحلول 2050. ومن المتوقع أن تتضاعف مساحة الأرضية العالمية في المباني بأكثر من 415 مليار متر مربع بحلول عام 2050 حسب وكالة الطاقة الدولية. إن تحقيق كفاءة الطاقة في المباني والأجهزة المنزلية من شأنه أن يعود على المنطقة بمنافع اقتصادية وبيئية واجتماعية شتى، ومن ثم يجب اعتماد معايير الدنيا لأداء الطاقة تكون أكثر صرامة في المنتجات كثيفة استهلاك الطاقة والشائعة الاستخدام في المباني، وفي مقدمتها أجهزة التكييف، وسن قوانين متكاملة لكفاءة استخدام الطاقة في المباني وإنفاذها أو تطبيقها على المباني الجديدة، والعمل على تحسين المباني القائمة وإعادة تجهيزها للحد من استهلاكها للطاقة، وإدماج نظم الطاقة المتجددة للتوصل إلى مبان غير مستهلكة للطاقة تقريبا. كل ذلك وفي حال تطبيق ما سبق، فإن تحديد هدف تخفيض الاستهلاك النهائي للطاقة في قطاع المباني والأجهزة المنزلية في المنطقة العربية بنسبة تصل إلى 5% بحلول 2030 سيصبح ممكن الحدوث، ومن ثم من الضروري اعتماد قوانين المباني تأخذ بعين الاعتبار كل التشريعات والتطبيقات الخاصة بكفاءة الطاقة في المباني للالتزام بها في المدن والتجمعات السكنية التي يتم إنشاؤها تلبية للمد العمراني، والتي تبدأ من مرحلة التخطيط والتصميم المعماري وانتهاء باستلام الوحدات والأبنية وشغلها، مع اعتبار أفضل الممارسات والتكنولوجيات لتحقيق أهداف الاستراتيجيات والخطط الوطنية لكفاءة الطاقة، خاصة في البلدان التي تكثر فيها أنشطة البناء كما في مصر مثلا، كما الحال في المنطقة العربية كلها وليس فقط في مصر. ويشكل وضع الشروط الخاصة بكفاءة استخدام الطاقة في المباني الجديدة وتطبيقها وإنفاذها النهج الأكثر فعالية للحد من استهلاك الطاقة في قطاع الأبنية والأجهزة المنزلية. أصحاب المعالي، سادة الحضور، سيعالج أسبوع meetMED الأول مسألة تعزيز التعاون الإقليمي من أجل الطاقة والتحول المناخي في بلدان جنوب الشرق البحر المتوسط، وسيفتح المجال لجلسات عامة وحوارات رفيعة المستوى على مدار الأسبوع، ويجتمع فيها صناع السياسات والأوساط الأكاديمية والدبلوماسيون ووكالات الأمم المتحدة والمؤسسات المالية وممثلو منظمات إقليمية وخبراء الطاقة من المؤسسات العامة والخاصة ووسائل الإعلام لتبادل الخبرات وتدارس أفضل الممارسات وتحديد مجالات الشراكات والتعاون المحتملة. كما ستتم مناقشة استمراريات مشروعات كفاءة الطاقة بشكل عام وفي المباني بشكل خاص من خلال تطوير آليات تمويل مبتكرة من أجل تحفيز القطاع الخاص على الاستثمار في كفاءة استخدام الطاقة على نطاق واسع. وسيتم التطرق كذلك إلى أهمية تطوير قدرات مؤسساتها والقوى العاملة القوية وتنمية قدرات بشرية العاملين في مجال كفاءة الطاقة على جميع الأصعدة. في ختام كلمتي أتمنى لكم أسبوعا ناجحا ومثمرا. أشكر مرة أخرى الحكومة المصرية والاتحاد الأوروبي على الدعم الممنوح لمركزنا ومشروع meetMED. شكر كذلك شركائنا في المشروع على رأس ميدينار والوكالات الوطنية لكفاءة الطاقة في الدول العربية. كما أشكر إدارة الطاقة في جميع الدول العربية ممثلة في المهندسة جميلة مطر رئيسة قسم إدارة الطاقة في جميع الدول العربية. أشكر على التعاون المثمر والمستمر وعلى الحضور. كما أغتنم الفرصة لتقديم خالص التهاني بمناسبة قرب حلول شهر رمضان الكريم. أعاد الله علينا وعليكم بالخير واليمن والبركات، وشكرا لكم. شكرا.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jawad Al-Kharraz, Executive Director for the Regional Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Decree. Some key points that I think we need to focus on from what you said, sir, right now. So we're talking about investment, and not the easiest of investments, because as you said, there's no direct or tangible return on investment for so many players. So that's one big challenge. Another challenge, we're tackling sectors that are extremely let's say dynamic in our part of the world in this period, specifically the building and construction altogether, where lots of the major players are still playing it in the very traditional approach. So the switch without losing the inertia and the momentum is quite a challenge to convince all those players to convert to a different type of energy. That's going to be a major challenge. Talking about laws and bylaws and legislations, quite a challenge also. We're talking about some kind of regulating bodies, and in our part of the world it's still let's say it's a mixed bag, where the players play the same role sometimes as players in the market, as competitors, and at the same time as regulators. So we're definitely looking forward to great discussions that will shed light on these areas, build on the best practices in different areas. Now let me leave the floor right now to another of these speakers, and that's going to be an online speech by Giorgio Graditi, the president of Mediterranean Association of the National Agencies for Energy Management, online right now. Please, sir. Can we go online? So again, please bear with us. We've got some. I think we're online now. Can we?
Good morning.
Yes. Morning, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, good morning. Thank to Dr. Alcaraz, and thank you to each and every one of you for attending the first meetMED week, hosted by our esteemed partner Recre, that I would like to warmly thank for the excellent organization of this first event will be held in Cairo. Our will is that the meetMED weeks become a flagship event for the Mediterranean region, an ideal place for an high-level policy dialogue where policymakers and the most relevant stakeholders will convene to exchange experience and discuss the next steps for the decarbonization of the region. In April 2018, within meetMED 1 project, we started building the regional network of experts from 14 Mediterranean countries to facilitate, to foster the path of the energy transition in the Mediterranean, since we had already experienced that together we could provide solutions to the main common challenges. Together, we retain that the most important challenge is energy transition in our region, with a particular focus on energy efficiency, energy technologies, renewable energy from the perspective of the energy security. This current international crisis could turn out to be the biggest supply crisis in decades. Global energy markets are at a crossroads. Energy security is back at the forefront of political agendas as commodity prices surge. So the international crisis has opened a period of strong volatility on the market of raw materials and fossil fuels, and the urgency, the need to continue our path has now become even more evident. Recent commitments by a number of governments to net zero emission targets have underlined both the need and the desire to rapidly reduce hydrocarbon consumptions. The energy sectors of all countries are facing a great challenge, a transition and continuous reduction in CO2 emissions, which is a challenge with no historical precedents and which involves all participants in the technological chain of energy management, all citizens and all economic entities. Societal pressure is visible increasing as policymakers, scientists, as well as environmental and citizen groups urge the need for radical change, and consumers start to make choices based on environmental as well as economic outcomes. Right now, new energy technologies, energy efficiency, capacity building, renewable energy, new energy carriers such as hydrogen, and smart sector integration are the lighthouses towards which we aim in facing the challenges of the energy transition for a decarbonized future energy system. With this regard, I would like to highlight that we all need to have a deeper look at the smart sector integration, that is the grounding concept underlining a successful transformation involving coordinated planning and operation of the electricity system with other mutually interacting systems. In fact, the smart sector integration aims to better link the different energy sectors, electricity, gas, buildings, transport, industry, and so on, to help them reduce carbon emissions. This means replacing fossil fuels with renewable electricity or with other renewable low carbon fuels where electrification is not possible, while ensuring that energy remains secure and affordable. This first meetMED week will show the importance of a qualified common approach, policymaker, national agency, and networks of experts to build concrete measures considering the differences between our countries the need for interconnection in the wider interest of the Mediterranean region. We recognize that the challenge of clean energy production and energy efficiency and gas behind the emergence of this crisis. The meetMED week wanted to activate a high-level policy dialogue to share experience and initiatives to foster common mission and policies towards the decarbonization of the region, involving policymakers and stakeholders to draw up the concrete action and measures to be followed to reach the expected goals. Together, we will contribute to energy and climate transition in order to develop an efficient and a climate-resilient environment in southern Mediterranean countries. Being focused on financial instruments, energy efficiency policies, and measures for building and appliances, and the monitoring of energy efficiency indicators, thanks to their dedicated sessions, we expect to engage a permanent dialogue to stimulate the exchange of information and share good practice, improve the harmonization and monitoring of legislation, regulations, and standards in the sectors of building and appliances. We wish that the discussion among northern and southern eastern Mediterranean countries will lead to strategic takeaway messages, new guidance documents, good practice, and roadmaps derived from each task force that will be incorporated into the meetMED week's proceedings to support the decision makers. Finally, I strongly encourage all the stakeholders to deliver strategic elements, comments for a common position for the decarbonization of the Mediterranean region to be presented at COP27, the next Climate Change Conference 2021 that will take place in Egypt from 7 to 18 November 2022. To conclude, a very warm welcome to every one of you, wishing you a very successful and fruitful meetMED week. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the meeting and this conference. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Giorgio Graditi, President of the Mediterranean Association for the National Agencies for Energy Management. Some keywords again that we listen to right now from Giorgio. Number one, energy security. And that's going to be a buzzword, and it's a challenge for everyone until we learn how to have our own, like, let's say, our reservoir of things, and we're still learning this field altogether. That's one challenge. Technology transfer, and it's an ongoing progressive process. It's not that the technology is going to be right now here, it's going to be stable as it is. It's a learning process, so we need to have somehow our own knowledge hub in our region, in our countries, and that's where the keyword, the other keyword, our scientists will play a major role over here. Capacity building, to apply all those things on the ground, we need to have a very clear model of how to build the capacity, transfer the know-how, and have generations of talents and talent pools that can play the different roles. And finally, the roadmaps and the task force. And I love this word because we don't want to finish this great week with like great discussions and best practice sharing without agreeing on task forces that will work on specific roadmaps for specific deliverables. Now let me move the mic right now to a lady who's playing a major role, and whenever things really go wrong in our region, we still look up to the Arab League. We always believe that this is the place that's going to bring us together. We have so many things in common. That's where the real commonality and the real alignment and the real one goal, apart from any kind of differentiating elements, lies in the Arab world. And people who know what the Arab League is actually doing, it's doing a major role apart from the political side. It's providing real value on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, let's listen to Jamila Matta, Director of Energy Department, the League of Arab States.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to participate in the activities of meetMED Week. Please allow me to extend a warm thank you to the organizers for granting me the opportunity to share with you my views on what is happening in our region with regards to energy, especially energy transition. As you all might know, The League of Arab States is a regional intergovernmental organization that continuously strives to coordinate to best serve its member state as the global challenges have left us with no choice but to maximize the efforts to utilize our region's natural resources. The concept of energy transition is well noted, and we try to cope with it in a manner that respects diversity and accommodates the needs for every Arab country. As for the Arab Ministerial Council for Electricity, we are pursuing this based on 4 major pillars. The first one is switching energy supplies to renewable energy sources and energy efficiency. There is no doubt that renewable energy resources and energy efficiency activities have witnessed many developments in our region. The Pan-Arab Strategy for Sustainable Energy 2030 represents a major turning point in the role played by the Arab Ministerial Council for Electricity towards a unified vision to meet the Sustainable Development Goal number 7 of ensuring access to affordable, reliable, and sustainable modern energy. The second pillar is focusing on electrical interconnection between Arab countries. A memorandum of understanding now signed by 16 Arab countries focuses on identifying and expanding bilateral trade opportunities in the near term and gradually moving towards competitive market operations. The MOU has gained a lot of momentum and made several key achievements, such as the development of governance documents for establishing the market, development of an electricity planning model to identify key trade corridors and quantify the benefits from trade, and developing a pricing mechanism for trade. The ultimate goal is to achieve a fully integrated Arab regional market with an interconnected and synchronized electricity network by 2038. In addition to encouraging public and private investment in large projects in the field of electricity generation and transmission of regional importance. The pilot program for Pan-Arab electricity market functions and the pricing mechanism has also been launched as one of the important tools in establishing the Pan-Arab electricity market. Moreover, it is a way to verify the feasibility of the market on the ground by piloting it as a micro-model in an attempt to address the obstacles that may arise during experimenting it. The third pillar tackles the way we use energy, i.e. to ensure that energy consumption revolves around electricity. According to a recent report issued by IRENA, by 2050, electricity will be the main energy carrier with over 50% direct share of total final energy use, up from 21% today. By 2050, 90% of total electricity needs will be supplied by renewables, followed by 6% from natural gas and the remaining from nuclear. In this regard, a lot of attention has been directed towards topics like e-mobility and water desalination using clean energy resources during the Ministerial Council meetings. The fourth pillar, ladies and gentlemen, is related to the increase in awareness about climate change and the rising demand for using environmentally friendly energy sources. Green hydrogen has a good opportunity to be the fuel of the future. As mandated by the Arab Ministerial Council for Electricity in its last session, the League of Arab States is in the process of preparing a study and a roadmap assessing and evaluating the potential of green hydrogen in energy supply for 2050. The study will be discussed in a dedicated brainstorming session with the consultant hired by the German government. Excellencies, friends and colleagues, we at LAS do believe that regional cooperation is one of the instruments that we invest in to steer efforts towards mutual benefits. And our event today is a living example of that, thanks to RCRI and meetENER. Thank you all, and see you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jamila Matar, Director of Energy Department, the League of Arab States. And again, some great examples and keywords you've used over here. And this pan-Arab electric network, and that's a great example of how the Arabs can work together, how the countries can work together and really deliver something. We've been reading about this a lot, and of course you know that Egypt specifically had major challenges in the electricity energy altogether. Starting 2014 and 15, major change, and then we heard a lot about these pan-Arab projects and working with Jordan and other countries. We're on the right track there. You mentioned something very important, the pricing element, and that's getting into the nitty-gritty details. That's where the problem usually happens, when you say that the devil lies in small details, and these are things that would really make the model work. The third thing you mentioned, my lady, is the way we use energy and electricity. This part about awareness, and we need it on different levels, all the way from governments and bodies and entities to individuals, and of course corporates, the way they utilize the energy. The best practice will be of great value over here. And then something it's a side element, but it's crucial in our part of the world, with all the challenges we have with the water resources, is the water desalination, what's needed there in terms of energy. So the needs are huge, and the challenges are big, and we need really to work together to reach these solid solutions together. Now let's right now talk to a lady that will tell us I know that there's a great example. I mentioned right now what the Egyptian government has done, specifically the Ministry of Electricity over the past years. It's a miracle in our terms, where we had a problem, nobody had a clue how to work it out, and then it worked somehow. So we do have the know-how, we have a story to tell. Our dear speaker, Mrs. Maha Mustafa, Under Secretary of State for Research, Planning and International Cooperation, Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy. Please.
صباح الخير جميعا. السيدة المهندسة جميلة مطر، مدير إدارة الطاقة بجامعة الدول العربية. سعادة السفير كريستيان برجير، رئيس وفد الاتحاد الأوروبي بجمهورية مصر العربية. سعادة القنصل قنصل الجمهورية البلغارية. السيد الدكتور جورجيو جراديتي، رئيس منظمة ميدينير. السيد الدكتور أحمد البلتاجي، ممثلا عن الاتحاد الأوروبي وبنشاطره خالص العزاء. السيد الدكتور جواد الخراز، المدير التنفيذي للمركز الإقليمي للطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة. السادة ممثلي السفارات والهيئات الدبلوماسية بجمهورية مصر العربية، دكتور خالد حبيب، مدير الجلسات. أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة الحضور، إنه لمن دواعي سروري أن أكون بين هذا الجمع الكريم في احتفالية افتتاح أسبوع مشروع meetMED. كما أود أن أتوجه بالشكر للجهات المنظمة لهذا الحدث، وأخص بالذكر الاتحاد الأوروبي والمركز الإقليمي للطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة ومنظمة ميدينير. السيدات والسادة الحضور، إن الطاقة هي شريان التنمية في شتى مجالات الحياة الاقتصادية والاجتماعية، وقد خبى الله سبحانه وتعالى الدول العربية بمصادر الطاقة الأولية، سواء المصادر الأحفورية أو المصادر المتجددة، حيث تقع معظم الدول العربية في الحزام الشمسي، وتتمتع بعض المناطق بمصادر لطاقة الرياح وطاقة حرارة باطن الأرض، والأخيرة لم تستغل قريباً حتى الآن. وكما هو معلوم أن المصادر الأحفورية ناضبة بطبيعتها، فتأتي أهمية التنمية المستدامة لتضمن الوفاء باحتياجات الحاضر دون المساس بحق الأجيال القادمة في حياة أفضل لهم، وتتماشى مع التوجهات العالمية الحديثة. وفي ضوء تزايد الطلب على الطاقة، فقد أصبح تأمين إمدادات الطاقة من القضايا التي تشغل العديد من دول العالم لحماية أمنها القومي. ومن هنا تأتي ضرورة تحسين منظومة الطاقة من خلال رفع كفاءة إنتاج ونقل وتوزيع واستخدام الطاقة بكافة صورها، بالإضافة إلى تعظيم استخدام الطاقات المتجددة لما لهما من دور هام في خفض معدلات استهلاك الوقود وخفض انبعاثات الغازات المسببة للاحتباس الحراري لمجابهة التغير المناخي. كما صار التحول العالمي في مجال الطاقة أمراً واقعاً كبنية تحتية لبناء اقتصاد مستدام، متضمناً معه فرص لا محدودة للتعاون بين الدول، وخاصة تلك التي تسعى إلى بلوغ معدلات أعلى في النمو، أخذاً في الاعتبار الفوائد الاجتماعية، وكذلك تجنب مخاطر الاعتماد على وقود مضطرب في أسعاره وفي تأمين الإمداد به. السيدات والسادة الحضور، يعد تحسين كفاءة الطاقة ركناً أساسياً في سياسات قطاع الكهرباء المصري، حيث أثبتت كفاءة الطاقة أنها أداة اقتصادية فعالة لتحقيق أمن الطاقة بتكاليف أقل من تكاليف إنشاء محطات كهربائية جديدة، وخفض حجم الإنفاق الحكومي في دعم الطاقة، بالإضافة إلى كونها أحد عوامل الحفاظ على البيئة والحد من غازات الاحتباس الحراري. وفي هذا الإطار يقوم قطاع الكهرباء المصري بالعديد من الجهود، والتي ترتكز على أن تحسين كفاءة الطاقة يعتبر ركناً أساسياً في استراتيجية الطاقة في مصر، حيث اعتمد المجلس الأعلى للطاقة استراتيجية وطنية طويلة المدى للطاقة حتى عام 2035 تتفق في أهدافها مع أهداف استراتيجية التنمية المستدامة ورؤية مصر 2030، وتتضمن تأمين الإمداد بالطاقة من خلال مزيج متوازن من المصادر المختلفة للطاقة وتعظيم مساهمات الطاقات المتجددة، حيث وصلت القدرات من الطاقة المتجددة إلى 20% في عام 2022، ومن المخطط أن تزداد إلى 42% بحلول عام 2035، وبالإضافة إلى تعظيم إجراءات كفاءة الطاقة بهدف ترشيد الاستهلاك في كافة القطاعات بنسبة 18% في نفس العام. كما اعتمد مجلس الوزراء المصري خطة الطاقة الكهربائية المستدامة للفترة من 2019 ل 2022، والتي تتضمن خطة النهوض بقطاع الطاقة الشمسية، بالإضافة إلى الخطة الوطنية الثانية لكفاءة الطاقة نياب 2 لتنفيذها في عدد من القطاعات المستهلكة للطاقة. ولقد اهتمت الخطة باستكمال البناء المؤسسي لنشاط تحسين كفاءة الطاقة باستكمال وتفعيل وتمكين وحدات كفاءة الطاقة في القطاعات الاقتصادية المختلفة، بالإضافة إلى برامج ترشيد الطاقة داخل وخارج القطاع لخفض معدلات استهلاك الوقود، وكذلك خفض معدلات الفقد الكهربي في شبكات النقل والتوزيع، وتوزيع لمبات إضاءة عالية الكفاءة بتكنولوجيا ال LED أو LED على المستهلكين، بالإضافة إلى استكمال إعداد بطاقات ومواصفات كفاءة الطاقة للأجهزة الكهربائية المنزلية، وتفعيل أكواد كفاءة استخدام الطاقة بالمباني السكنية والتجارية والعامة، والذي يمثل نقطة الانطلاق نحو الوصول للمباني الخضراء. ولضمان التنفيذ الأمثل للخطة واستدامة متابعة تنفيذ الأنشطة، فقد صدر قرار السيد رئيس مجلس الوزراء بتشكيل اللجنة التوجيهية للطاقة الكهربائية المستدامة، وبعضوية السادة وكلاء أول الوزارات المعنية بموضوعات الطاقة المستدامة، وتختص اللجنة بتنسيق ومتابعة التنفيذ على المستوى الوطني. كما يقوم القطاع بتحديث الشبكة الكهربائية وتحسين جودة الخدمة المقدمة من خلال دمج مفهوم الشبكات الذكية في المنظومة الكهربائية، والتي تعتبر هي وسيلة المستقبل للتحكم في الطلب على الطاقة الكهربائية لما لها من إمكانيات في التواصل مع المستهلكين والتفاعل معهم، بالإضافة إلى الاقتصاد في استهلاك الطاقة. السيدات والسادة الحضور، ولضمان توفير المزيد من الطاقة المستدامة وخلق سوق مشتركة للكهرباء كما أفادت زميلتي المهندسة جميلة مطر، فإن قطاع الطاقة والكهرباء يضع ضمن استراتيجيته مشروعات الربط الكهربائي لاستيعاب الطاقات الضخمة التي سيتم توليدها من الطاقة النظيفة، بالإضافة إلى اعتبار الربط أحد وسائل الترشيد والاستفادة المثلى من الموارد، حيث ترتبط مصر كهربائياً مع دول المشرق والمغرب والخليج العربي، وكذا ربط ثنائي مع دولة السودان، هذا بالإضافة إلى مشروعات الربط مع العمق الأفريقي مستقبلاً. كما تم توقيع مذكرة تفاهم لدراسة الربط الكهربائي بين مصر وقبرص واليونان للربط مع أوروبا، بالإضافة إلى توقيع مذكرة تفاهم مع المنظمة العالمية للربط الكهربائي جايدكو بهدف تعزيز مفهوم الربط الكهربائي العالمي للطاقة حتى عام 2050. وباستكمال مشروعات الربط المشار إليها، سوف تصبح مصر مركزاً محورياً للربط الكهربائي في المنطقة. السيدات والسادة الحضور، نحن نقدر بشدة مساهمة المرحلة الحالية من مشروع الميتمد على المستويين الوطني والإقليمي، مع تركيزه المستحق على كفاءة الطاقة في الأجهزة والمباني ونماذج الأعمال المرتبطة بها وآليات التمويل. كما سيعالج المركز الإقليمي للطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة مع الميدينير والبلدان المستفيدة العديد من القضايا ذات الأهمية الحيوية، كما سنرى خلال هذا الأسبوع. نحن نرى أن المشروع والمبادرات المماثلة التي تدعمها المفوضية الأوروبية كمنصات للتعاون والتآزر مع مبادرات ومشاريع إقليمية أخرى متوسطية وعربية وأوروبية مدعومة من قبل شركاء رائدين آخرين بما في ذلك جامعة الدول العربية ومنظمات الأمم المتحدة كثير منها معنا سيثرون هذا الحدث في جلسات مختلفة. شكري العميق وتقديري مرة أخرى للمفوضية الأوروبية والمركز الإقليمي للطاقة المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة والميدينير، وأنا على ثقة من أن المشروع سيلبي توقعات وطموحات بلداننا ويدعم جهودها من أجل التعافي الأخضر وانتقال الطاقة النظيفة، كما أن مخرجاته ستكون مفيدة للإسهام في النقاشات المستفيضة التي يتوقع أن يشهدها مؤتمر الأطراف 27 الذي ستستضيفه مصر في نوفمبر المقبل بشرم الشيخ. أتمنى لكم تجمعاً ناجحاً للغاية في هذا الأسبوع المتوسطي الرائع، مما يمهد الطريق نحو مزيد من التعاون بين جانبي البحر الأبيض المتوسط شماله وجنوبه. أشكركم ولكم كل التوفيق. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Maha Mustafa, Undersecretary of State for Research, Planning and International Cooperation, Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy in Egypt. I want to thank you, my dear lady, for something very specific before we talk about the technicalities, and I'll say this in English and Arabic. I want to thank you for the proper classical Arabic language that you've used. أشكر حضرتك بشدة على استخدام اللغة العربية الفصحى بطريقة صحيحة، لأن احنا دايما عندنا تحدي الأجيال الجديدة اللغة العربية عندنا بعافية شويتين ثلاثة، فلما نلاقي حد بيلتزم بقواعد اللغة الصحيحة رسالة جميلة جدا. شكرا جزيلا. Now, again, there were so many key words that are of great value for us, and the first thing is climate change. And sometimes we don't focus on this issue, but it's really attacking us in every way of life right now. And it's really affecting the life of our children and grandchildren in terms of non-stop disease and issues. And I think the more we care about the climate change and its impact on health and so on, that's a major challenge also. You mentioned the word infrastructure, and to build an infrastructure related to electricity, that's not an easy thing. It's a very big challenge, and it's very costly. We know this. Sustainable economy, and this means that all forms of investment that are needed, it's not the tradition, it's not only by governments. This is where we really need to utilize the different resources available. Another issue you mentioned, my dear lady, is the energy efficiency and the benchmarks and the KPIs. And that's not something we've been using for many years. It has been a recent thing, and I sure hope that these benchmarks, there are global benchmarks, we need to be very close to them. Sometimes we always, in our part of the world, we say like, we're different. We always think that we're unique. احنا وضعنا مختلف. So sometimes we tell everybody like, okay, let's start with a zero base. There has to be a starting point, and then we start measuring and improving on annual basis. Egypt has been going through a lot when it comes to this part of really intelligent utilization of energy. And one of the major problems that stopped us from any kind of management or benchmarking was the random areas, where we had over millions of Egyptians living in random areas. That's where another major project in the country right now, where the government has been establishing new areas, totally new areas, again touching one of the main sectors we're talking about, the building sector, and moving families to these areas. And I think that's going to have a great positive impact on the ability to measure everything related to energy efficiency. Now let us move to another speech right now. That's a very special one from His Excellency, Ambassador Christian Berger, the head of the European Union delegation to Egypt. So please, Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
For growth and development. One that can generate economic development and improvements in people's lives in ways consistent with advancing environmental and social well-being. meetMED, a regional platform for high-level dialogue on energy, was established by the European Union to foster regional energy cooperation, focusing on sustainable energy investment, concerted actions on buildings and appliances, and monitoring energy efficiency policies. The main topics for our discussion are the European Union Green Deal, the decarbonization of the economy by 2050, and the reduction of 55% of emissions by 2030. What does this mean in real terms, and what does this mean for people? Supporting people requires understanding the challenges they face, and this includes energy poverty, a very complex issue with many factors that come into play, including low income, high expenditure on energy, and poor energy efficiency. 1 in 5 European Union citizens live in places of low standard. That could mean leaking roofs, damp walls, or rotting window frames and floors. Such high figures sound shocking. In other places in the European Union neighborhood, the situation could be even much more severe. Let's see how the European Union responds to such challenges. The EU tackles the problem through a mega EU program entitled the Renovation Wave. One of the basic principles of the Renovation Wave is to protect the right of everyone to have affordable, livable, accessible and healthy housing. The program aims to ensure that energy-performing and sustainable buildings are the new norm. And people remain the focus of energy policies. Low-income households may be forced to live in cheaper buildings, but what they save in lower rent, they risk sacrificing with their health and energy bills in low-performing housing, driving them deeper into energy poverty. Europe is looking into ways to achieve a successful transition that supports renovation solutions. This comes with EU support and citizens' engagement through better financing and better communication. Supporting people means empowering them. Knowledge is power. We must enhance the level of data and awareness of energy consumption to battle energy poverty. I'm sure that we find in Europe and around the Mediterranean inspiring cases where we can see the transformative power of what it means to have information on the energy profile of buildings, as well as the benefits of upgrading them. Egypt has done a lot in this respect through moving people living in formal areas into social building programs. The concept of sustainability must always be taken into account in order to empower households and improve their living standards. I'm sure that the European Union financial institutions, who are keen on making the energy transition a reality, can help exploring financial solutions for such actions around the Mediterranean. We have a long way to go. We must design our policies in a way that does not just improve our statistics, but transforms the way we live on both sides of the Mediterranean. With this, I wish you excellent discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Christian Berger, head of the European Union delegation to Egypt. And I've been lucky enough to have lots of encounters with Christian over the past few years. We're working on different projects, always sponsored by the European Commission, European Union, related to technical and vocational education and training, related to changing the perception of vocational training in Egypt, related to definitely the energy sector. So many areas, the area is related to water management and irrigation. And the one key message that we get every time is that, from my modest perspective, for the first time over the past few years, the partnership is extremely fruitful for both parties, when both parties know exactly what they want. So it's not that any party is forcing on the other party their own agenda. We know what we're looking for, we know our needs, we know the challenges, and the European Union is there to really partner and provide what we're looking for. So that's, I think, one of the major things. Let me first thank, before we move to our other second session, let me thank all our distinguished keynote speakers for the beginning of the week altogether. And I think now is going to be time to move to our first high-level dialogue on energy transition in the Mediterranean region and the pathway to COP27. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Can you please leave the stage, and then we'll ask for the other guests. Thank you very much. They can say, okay, if we have let me invite our guests to join the stage right now. First, Huda Alel, Director, OME. She's going to be with us online. And we have Mr. Mohammed Al-Husseini to be with us on stage also. Over there. I don't have to change. Mr. Mohammed, please. And we might be joined with Mr. Fathi Hanchi, General Director, Agence Nationale de la Maîtrise de l'Énergie, Tunisie. and Cyril Dewalin, Program Officer, European Commission, DG NIR, that's also online. And we might have also with us Matteo Fumerio, International Relations Officer, European Commission. So I leave the floor to Mr. Jawad. You'll handle the discussion right now, please.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Khalid. It's my pleasure to moderate this high-level dialogue on energy transition in the Mediterranean region and the pathway to COP27. We have an excellent lineup speakers online with us today. Dr. Huda Allal, Director of the Mediterranean Energy Observatory, OMI. Mohammed Al-Husseini from the Union for the Mediterranean Energy and Climate Action. Mr. Fathi Hanshi, General Director, Agence Nationale de la Maîtrise de l'Énergie, Tunisia. Mr. Cyril Dewalin, Program Officer, European Commission, DG NIR. Mr. Matteo Fumerio, International Relations Officer, European Commission, DG ENAR. Please join me to welcome all distinguished speakers. Thank you very much. The Mediterranean region, thanks to its geographical position, can play a key role in the energy transition process. In addition, the rapid deployment or development of the South and the Eastern Mediterranean countries is the rapid development of the South and East Mediterranean countries is leading to a significant increase in energy demand and is changing the economic and energy landscape in the region. According to OMI, energy consumption would double by 2040 in the South Mediterranean countries, and electricity consumption would triple. Carbon dioxide emissions would increase by 45% of the whole region and more than double in the Southern Mediterranean. It is so necessary to cooperate in order to lead the region into Euro-Mediterranean energy cooperation, in order to share strategies, efforts, experiences, and favor the deployment of energy infrastructure and best practices. The impact of COVID-19, as you know, strongly affected the economic situation of the Mediterranean area. And now the current war in the east of Europe is going to affect also the situation further. And in this sense, the opportunity to humanize energy transition emerges as a key to achieve the climate neutrality targets, together with the need to focus on customer-centric approach, broader innovation, and more inclusive cooperation. The next COP27 is going to take place, as you know, in Sharm el-Sheikh this year in November, and it will be a great opportunity not only for Egypt, but also for all the countries of the Mediterranean to showcase their efforts in mitigation and adaptation and their steps in energy transition. Energy transition, as you know, extends well beyond climate change to jobs creation and also economic growth. Mediterranean countries face some of the same and some different problems compared to European member states. The political objectives are there, but we need the tools to achieve them. Energy efficiency together with deployment of renewable energy will be key to address climate change. The integration of renewables also with hydrocarbons can play an important role in southern Mediterranean countries. Without further delay, I'm going to give the floor to our distinguished panelists. I would maybe ask a question to start with. Many of our Mediterranean region think that we need energy transition laws with long-term goals for renewable energy and energy efficiency, and that we need energy subsidized reforms, also enabling framework to mobilize private finance, as well as independent energy regulators and a more regionally integrated market. From your experience or perspective, what do you think is the next big milestone for the energy transition in the Mediterranean region, and what do you think is needed to get there? And also, what is, in your opinion, would be the targets, the priorities, or rather the messages to give to the Mediterranean countries in the COP27? Thank you very much. The floor is yours, Dr. Huda. Thank you. We don't hear you. If your mic is off, maybe. We'll try to fix this. Sorry, Dr. Huda, we'll try to fix it quickly. Is it okay? Could you please check, Dr. Huda, if you are not unmute? No, we don't hear you yet. Let's check if the problem is from our side or from your side. Otherwise, if you don't mind, Dr. Huda, we can maybe give the floor to Mohammed Husseini, who is with us today here, and then we come back to you. Meanwhile, we fix this problem. Thank you very much. So we give the floor to Mr. Mohammed Husseini, representing the Union for the Mediterranean Energy and Climate Action Department. Thanks, Mohammed Husseini, for being with us. Thank you very much.
صباح الخير. أنا سعيد بوجودي النهارده معاكم، وبشكر طبعا دكتور جواد وريكري وميدينير على الدعوة الكريمة. أنا طبعا من الاتحاد النجم المتوسط، بتكلم مفروض كان مديري السفير جرامينوس ماستروجيني، وهو مدير إدارة الطاقة والعمل المناخي بالاتحاد النجم المتوسط. مفروض كان يتكلم واعتذر في آخر لحظة، فأنا بتكلم نيابة عنه. وهتكلم بسرعة عن الاتحاد، وأنا بشتغل خبير طاقة في الاتحاد من أجل المتوسط. فهتكلم برضو باختصار وسريعا عن دور الاتحاد في موضوعات الطاقة والمناخ. الاتحاد من أجل المتوسط منظمة حكومية بتضم 42 دولة، 27 دولة أعضاء الاتحاد الأوروبي، و15 دول جنوب وشرق المتوسط. منظمة طبعا بتهدف بالأساس لتعزيز التعاون والتكامل بين دول المنطقة، بما يهدف في النهاية لتحقيق الاستقرار والاندماج في مجالات فنية مختلفة. عندنا 6 إدارات طبعا بتشتغل في مجالات مختلفة، زي التعليم العالي، البحث العلمي، الشؤون الاجتماعية والحماية المدنية، المياه والبيئة والاقتصاد الأزرق، التنمية الاقتصادية والتشغيل، النقل والتنمية الحضرية، وطبعا الإدارة اللي أنا بشتغل فيها الطاقة والعمل المناخي، وهي المعنية بالموضوعات الخاصة بالطاقة زي الإيفنت اللي احنا فيه النهاردة. زي ما قال دكتور جواد وزي ما حضراتكم عارفين، منطقة المتوسط فيها تحديات كبيرة فيما يخص الطاقة والتغير المناخي، وفي أرقام طبعا بتعكس هذا الموضوع. المنطقة طبعا فيها ارتفاع في درجة الحرارة بنسبة 20% زيادة عن المتوسط العالمي. عندنا طبعا ندرة في المياه، وزيادة كبيرة في عدد السكان، وزيادة على الطلب على الطاقة، وطبعا في أزمة في الطاقة زي ما حضراتكم شايفين، وفي مشكلة في ارتفاع الأسعار. فتحديات كبيرة تشهدها منطقة المتوسط. في نفس الوقت طبعا في فرص موجودة لمواجهة هذه التحديات. أهم الفرص اللي احنا شايفينها كلنا هو موضوع وفرة الطاقة الشمسية وطاقات الرياح ومصادر الطاقة المتجددة بشكل عام. فدور المنظمة هنا ان انت بتعمل تعاون وتكامل ما بين دول شمال وجنوب المتوسط لاستغلال الطاقات المتجددة وتقليل انبعاثات الكربون وزيادة التحول نحو الطاقة النظيفة وخلافه. احنا بنشتغل من خلال 3 بلاتفورمز أساسيين في موضوعات الطاقة. عندنا بلاتفورم خاص بالكهرباء، بلاتفورم خاص بكفاءة الطاقة والطاقة المتجددة، وبلاتفورم ثالث خاص بموضوعات الغاز. طبعا في البلاتفورم الخاص بكفاءة الطاقة والطاقة المتجددة احنا بنتعاون بشكل كبير مع ريكري وميدينير، وهم من اهم الستيك هولدرز اللي بنشتغل معاهم في هذا الموضوع. احنا طبعا عملنا اجتماع الوزراء دول الاتحاد من اجل المتوسط، وزراء الكهرباء والطاقة في المنطقة، كان في البرتغال في يونيو 2021، ونتج عنه خارطة طريق في فبراير 2022. الفكرة الرئيسية اللي احنا بنتكلم فيها في الاجتماع الوزاري او الاعلان الوزاري اللي خرج عن الاجتماع وخارطة الطريق، اللي هو ضرورة تحقيق الانتقال نحو الطاقة النظيفة. طبعا احنا مرة تانية مهتمين جدا بالتعاون مع ريكري ومع ميدانير، والمشروع اللي احنا شايفينه ميت ميد مشروع مهم في المنطقة لتحقيق فكرة تقليل الاستهلاك في الطاقة وتقليل الانبعاثات الكربونية. الفكرة الرئيسية كمان اللي احنا بنشتغل عليها في الاتحاد من أجل المتوسط، احنا طبعا عندنا ستيك هولدرز تكنيكال اكتر مننا بيشتغلوا في الموضوعات اللي انا اتكلمت فيها، بس الفكرة عندي كمنظمة حكومية ان انا بحاول الاقي فرص تعاون وتكامل ما بين دول. يعني عندنا مجموعتين مختلفتين في الامكانيات والاولويات والفرص الموجوده، دول شمال المتوسط ودول جنوب المتوسط في اختلاف كبير جدا في الاولويات وفي الفرص. وعندنا دول في جنوب المتوسط عندها طاقه لسه وقود احفوري عايزه تصدره وتستفيد منه زي مصر زي الجزائر ودول اخرى. دول طبعا شمال المتوسط بتتكلم عن ضروره ان احنا نوصل لنيت زيرو ايميشنز عند وقت معين. في طبعا اختلاف كبير في الامكانيات. الفكره ان انت توصل لحلول مشتركه ما بين المجموعتين دول من الدول من خلال اجتماعات وزاريه، من خلال اعلانات او بيانات بتصدر بمناسبات مختلفه، من خلال ورش عمل. هو ده التحدي او الاساس اللي احنا بنشتغل عليه. فيحصل بعد كده نقل في التكنولوجيا، ويحصل بعد كده ورش عمل، فيحصل بعد كده يعني حوار ما بين الطرفين بحيث ان احنا في الاخر نوصل للفكره الرئيسيه اللي احنا بنشتغل عليها، هي الانتقال نحو الطاقه النظيفه. وشكرا جزيلا.
شكرا جزيلا استاذ محمد حسيني عن اتحاد الامجد المتوسط. بطبيعه الحال نحن في ريكري وميدانير سعيدين جدا بالتعاون مع الاتحاد الامجد المتوسط، لاعب اقليمي اساسي، ونتعاون من خلال المنصه الخاصه بالطاقه المتجدده وكفاءه الطاقه. شكرا محمد. الان نعود. We will come back to Dr. Huda Allal. I hope the problem of mic is solved out. Dr. Huda, do you hear us? We don't hear you yet.
Okay. Good morning again. Do you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, yes, we do. Thank you very much. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. صباح الخير. السلام عليكم. So I'm very happy to be here with you, and again thank you to meetMED, to the European Commission, to medener, to RICRI for the invitation to join this discussion this morning on a very important topic indeed. To the road to COP27, and we started already our cooperation with first with medener because we are the oldest organizations in the MED regional one. So OME, for those who do not know us, we are 30 years, we have 30 years of existence, and we are the Association of Mediterranean Energy Companies looking for promoted cooperation in the energy field in all energies. And between the companies and the countries in the Mediterranean region. To summarize, we are the partner of the energy transition, of course, today. I'm here with you today as OAB stakeholder, the partner again, also the stakeholder in the 3 UFM energy platform, which were presented by Mohammed, and we are acting as well as the secretariat of the gas platform. To reply to your question, I think that we do have all the elements of the puzzle, and we've been discussing many years ago what are the priorities and what we have to do. And I think that both the COVID and the crisis that we are living today is another opportunity to remind us that we need to act. We need to act because if we lose more time, we are going to really facing a lot of problems and troubles. Why is this? Is it because of, so today, the Mediterranean is 550 million people. We are polluting only some 7% of all overall CO2 emissions. And we consume 7%. So 7% of population that consume 7% of the energy demand and pollute to 6%. So we are not that bad by the end of the day, but we know that the Mediterranean is a real hotspot for climate change. So we can say we are not the most important in terms of contributing to problems of climate change, but we are the ones that are suffering the most of this problem. Another thing is that for those who do not know us, we do produce scenarios, and OME scenarios we do not take position. We only translate in figures what the countries are committing to do or willing to do or look forward. And we see what happened. And again, we have 30 years of experience now, and we see what is happening. Today, if we go business as usual, meaning that we will follow the unconditional NDCs, though the countries are updating them, we will have really big problems. Why is this? For two reasons. As you said, we are going in the South Mediterranean countries more to double the energy demand. The electricity demand will of course, increase to almost three times by 2050. And the bad news is not only with regards to climate change, because the South will be more than doubling its CO2 emission, but in terms of energy security. The problem with energy security is that today in Europe, whatever the trend is, we reach or we don't reach the Green Deal objectives, energy demand is going to decrease, CO2 emissions are going to decrease. Behind is the population that by 2050 will even reduce as compared to today. But in the South Mediterranean countries, we expect more than 140 million people to come. So not only we are starting from a situation where energy demand by capita, electricity demand by capita is lower as compared to the North, but only all these people that are coming need energy, needs building. And here why building is one of the most crucial where we have a potential for energy efficiency. So I said we have two problems, a hotspot, climate change, and energy security. We have other paths. We have what the countries have announced as conditional NDCs, means that they can do better if they have financing for climate. But we've been looking at a third scenario within the framework of the UFM platforms and with the support of the European Commission, to see what would a decarbonizing scenario look like. And of course, as you can imagine, within this scenario, we will reach by 2060 the decarbonization of the South. One of the most important elements is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency and energy efficiency in the building sector, in the transport sector, can make a big difference. So if we go for such a scenario, we have seen that we will reduce substantially CO2 emissions. We will become even a net exporter. So from having big trouble in becoming importer, and for today, to give you just an illustration, today the South Med is net importer by 10%. Okay, but if we go to the decarbonizing scenario, we will become net exporter. But if we go to the scenario in which we go unconditional NDCs, we will move from 10 to more than 37% of energy dependence. So this is really a big problem again, in addition to the problem of CO2 emissions. So building sector is crucial. And of course, going to more decarbonized sector means also more electrification. So this is, the electrification will be higher. Renewable energies, this is the easiest to decarbonize is the electricity sector. So we expect that we can reach up to 72% of electricity produced by renewables. And I do agree with what we've heard, that renewables, gas will play a crucial role. But in any case, energy efficiency is the number one if we wish to go ahead with a successful energy transition. And 50% of the CO2 emission can be avoided thanks to energy efficiency. And again, this is appliance. But again, we have, in my opinion, the whole ingredients. We know, we've been discussing this with medeNER also for a while. So we need to put the elements of the puzzle in the right way in order to have a nice picture. Of course, there are a lot of progress that have been made, because you've been speaking about the conditions we know, the institutional subsidies. So we see that a lot of issues have been taken into consideration by the countries and happening. but we need to accelerate. I would say that the good news as compared to the past, when we've been discussing this, energy efficiency used to have a big, among the barriers was to say, we have difficulties in financing energy efficiency. Of course, it has a cost, but it was much more difficult. Today, we are in a better shape. So today, the financing green is getting momentum. So at least we have this inside and in the good side, I would say. So let's make things happen. Let's make things happen, because my fear is that once again, if we do not accelerate and if we let the new constructions and the potential is in the south, the beauty, I would say, is that the potential is much more in not in the existing, but the new. So if we take into consideration the good measures for the new, so that we can successfully and with the least cost option, otherwise we will meet in 10 years if we are still here, and we will discuss the scenarios and we will be not in a good shape. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Huda, for this insightful talk. Definitely, we need to act, we need to accelerate. The energy efficiency definitely can make the difference in the pathway towards the decarbonization in the Mediterranean region. We will surely have many questions to you, but for the matter of time, we will pass directly to the next speaker, and maybe we'll come back to you later. Thank you, Dr. Huda, again. And now we pass the floor to the next speaker, Mr. Cyril Diwalain, the Program Officer at the European Commission DGNIR. Mr. Cyril, are you with us? Mr. Cyril, do you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we do. Yeah. Yes, we do.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much. So first of all, it's a pleasure to be part of this opening session of the meetMED week, and I would like to first start the organizers of this event, so the meetMED, the RICRI and MEDENER Association. I would also like to thank the participants and also the previous speakers who have very brightly highlighted the emergency of acting. So I will not spend time in repeating this point. I mean, we indeed talk about clean energy transition, but we should talk about how to accelerate, how to fasten this clean energy transition. And I would very briefly talk about what the EU does in terms of cooperation on this energy sector with the southern neighborhood. And to start with, I would briefly recall an important communication that was published last year by the European Union, which is the renewed partnership with the southern neighborhood. It's a document that you can find on the internet, which highlighted the very priority objectives of the EU in its partnership with southern neighbor country on numerous domains. And of course, on the energy side, there is a specific chapter on that. What are the key priority objectives that the EU seeks to obtain with its partner countries? There are four. The first one is a massive deployment of renewable energy and clean hydrogen production. Second one is a strong interconnection of electricity systems in a perspective of regional integration. The third one is the energy efficiency effort and measures in all the key, sectors of the economy. And there is a strong, there is a specific mention in document on building and appliances. And the fourth one is supporting policies that address fugitive emissions from fossil fuel production, transport, and use. So the document also highlights, of course, the important need of interdependency of energy policies between the EU and its southern neighbor country, and the key importance of energy security of the partner countries. So what are, the key focuses of our cooperation? Of course, the access to secure, sustainable, affordable, and reliable energy to the populations, transition to competitive, low-emission, energy-efficient economies, regional integration, as I just said, and I'm very pleased that the Union for the Mediterranean was here today with us to talk about that. And of course, the promotion of economic growth, creation of jobs, through a new or updated value chain. So what do? We work with partner countries on improving the sector governance on energy. We also provide some capacity building programs. We try to accompany ambitious energy reforms, in particular the one related to the energy subsidies. We also foster transfer of know-how, of expertise, and also building bridges between the European companies and the private sector in the partner countries, which would be interested in building, let's say, stronger relationship and to develop businesses in the energy sector. We, of course, work on enhancing the regulatory frameworks, institutional frameworks, which are key, let's say, for the development of these 4 objectives. We try to ease the access to sustainable finance. And on that, I'm very pleased that my colleague, Cristina Casada, who's online today, will talk to you later on today about some concrete mechanisms we have set up last year in support to the municipal initiatives on energy security. We promote, as I just said, but I repeated, integrated approaches. So the nexus water, energy, and food is central to any new development, new initiative which relates to energy. And we also embed in the thinking in terms of circular economy, the concept of resource efficiency. So not only energy, but water and any sort of other commodity. We try to foster research and innovation with other colleagues from the DG Research and Development. So in particular, in the development of hydrogen. We want also to focus on more distributed energy solutions. So next to the large-scale facilities that we try to incentivize and to support through the different instruments that we talk about in a minute, we also focus more and more on the distributed solutions. Of course, the importance of mainstreaming the gender equality and to involve the civil society actors in these endeavors. And here I would like to insist on a point that has already been raised this morning, the importance of awareness raising to population on what means energy efficiency. Very brief examples of what we do in terms of projects and programs. We, for instance, work at the regional level on enhancing the regulatory frameworks with the association MEDREG. We work on the possible better interconnections of electricity systems with the MED-TSO association. We, of course, have a number of bilateral support in different countries, for instance, through budget support operations that are there to support major energy sector reform in different partner countries. We also work, as the meetMED shows, on enhancing energy efficiency in different sectors of the economy. Here we talk, of course, about building and appliances, but we also work on other domains like the industrial sector with projects like SwitchMed. And then these are granting operations, but since 2008, we also developed a new financial instrument, which is called the blending instrument, where in addition to small amount of EU grants, we build a partnership with international financial institutions that provide their loans that we can leverage these amounts to provide, let's say, a more impactful project. And through this instrument, for instance, we have financed the large-scale Ouarzazate solar plants in Morocco. We did so also in Egypt for some wind farms in the Suez area. But we also, for instance, worked with EBRD on providing energy efficiency in the industries through the project that today exists in the different partner countries that are called GEF, so Green Economy Financing Facility. So this is what we do with the blending. And of course, sorry, I would like to mention also the one that we are now drafting with AFD, Agence Française de Développement, on the energy efficiency in buildings, which will be signed this year. And this project will, let's say, build on what the meetMED project will work on in terms of regulatory framework improvement, institutional building strengthening, and so on and so forth. So we try to build regional projects that we anchor then to programs of investment with international financial institutions. And the last instrument which we are about to launch in the coming weeks is a new instrument based on financial guarantees. The idea being that today we want to work more and more with private sector, not only in the partner countries, but also international private sector with international financial institutions to try and bring their funding, to develop and to implement fast and impactful solution on energy, on the energy sector. The idea being that with our guarantees, we will try to de-risk the business environment so that it will attract more and more the private investors. So in 2 weeks' time, we will launch a first call for proposals towards international financial institutions on different subsectors, including one on energy, And we do hope that in the coming 3 to 6 months, we'll have some interesting proposals from international financial institutions to accelerate, this clean energy transition in different sectors, being it on renewable energy promotion, being it on energy efficiency, or any other type of project, including interconnection. So I propose to stop here. Of course, I stand ready for any question. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Cyril, for this very complete overview and perspective. In particular, highlighting the importance of energy efficiency in building appliances, the importance of working with the private sector and international financial institutions in the region, and also the importance of water energy food nexus, etc., etc. So, because of the matter of time, I will pass to the next speaker, but hopefully we can come back to you quickly at the end. Thank you very much, Cyril, again. So now we pass the floor to the next speaker, I think Mr. Matteo Fumerio from the European Commission, DG NR. Mr. Matteo, do you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we do, yeah. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor, and thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here today and joining you as a speaker. I would like, first of all, to thank ERCRI very much for the excellent organization of the meetMED Week, together with regional partners, Medner. And indeed, it's an honor to be here. I would like to, of course, give a bit of a point of view from the European Union perspective, as indeed, of course, energy efficiency features very high in our agenda nowadays, in particular in the current context. I mean, the policy relevance of the energy transition agenda, both in the short term, but also on the back, of course, of the current volatile energy context, but also over the long term, with energy efficiency as a key pillar of our policy efforts to advance the climate agenda, has come to the forefront of our policy efforts, of course. In particular, lately, with our new Repower EU communication, in light of the geopolitical situation, this is a structural change for us in the energy outlook and in our policy priorities, with a view to reducing basically the existing energy dependencies and ensure stronger diversification going forward. With the view to that, we are set ourselves the goal of coming up with an ambitious plan in close coordination with the member states by the end of May 2022. The challenge here is to reconcile the short-term energy security agenda and priorities in the current high price environment with an ambitious energy transition agenda that we have set ourselves in the Fit for 55 package. Of course, with every challenge, there are also opportunities. There is the need to reroute energy supplies, which for us is of course a steep challenge, but also an opportunity to deepen energy value chains with regional partners, in particular in the Mediterranean, and also, of course, further accelerate the energy transition as a key energy security measure. So advancing on an ambitious energy efficiency agenda for us is more urgent than ever. As we highlight in the Repower EU communication, energy efficiency first principle is now more relevant than ever, and should be applied across all sectors and policy, also with demand response measures complementing those on the supply side. In the new geopolitical and energy market, we are required indeed to drastically accelerate the clean energy transition and develop a resource-efficient, socially just, resilient, and climate-neutral economy. So what are we doing on the EU side? We have set ourselves an ambitious objective to decarbonize the economy by 2050, with an emissions reduction target, an interim basis by 2030 to reduce by at least 55% our emissions as a balanced, realistic, and prudent pathway to climate neutrality. Our climate target plan stresses that indeed to achieve the 55% reduction target, there is a need to significantly step up energy efficiency efforts by the interim target of 2030. In this regard, we have put forward recently proposals for recast of our energy efficiency directive to increase our ambition, align it with the climate target plan, and indeed step up energy efficiency efforts at the EU level and at the national level. Combustion of fuels is responsible for most of the largest majority of our greenhouse gas emissions, 75%. So reducing its use, reducing energy use is a vital element, even more so in the current context, along with decarbonizing energy supplies. Efficient use of energy is key to achieve the European Green Deal objectives, and it is a precondition for decarbonization. As indicated indeed by Repower EU, the full implementation of the Commission's Fit for 55 proposals will already reduce our annual fossil gas consumption by 30%, which is equivalent to 100 billion cubic meters by 2030. Besides climate sustainability and improved air quality and environmental sustainability, an ambitious energy efficiency agenda for us is also a source of multiple benefits for businesses and society at large in terms of reduced energy costs, increased productivity and competitiveness, stronger energy security, increased investment and green employment opportunities in the energy efficiency sector, and stronger reliance to possible, stronger resilience to possible spikes in energy prices. So the energy efficient agenda has clearly gained promises, also in clean energy agendas worldwide. In the most recent estimates, the Energy Efficiency 2021 report from the International Energy Agency indicates that indeed energy efficiency related spending makes up 2/3 of the total clean energy recovery packages globally, with public resources committed by governments to energy efficiency investments in total accounting to 270 billion euros globally in 2020. The concrete efficiency measures and investments are particularly relevant for buildings, which are, of course, big consumers of energy for heating, cooling, ventilation, or lighting, not only in the Northern Hemisphere, but also, of course, in the Southern Mediterranean. Throughout the world also, where increasing temperatures, also in the south, and heat waves also in the north, make cooling more and more important. Associated to that, as highlighted also by other speakers, demographic growth, urbanization, climate change increases are also contributing factors to increase cooling needs in the Mediterranean, and ambitious policies for cooling equipment efficiency and passive cooling through better building designs, as well as the use of vegetation to cool down cities and buildings, have the potential to entail an important reduction in the need for extra energy. Major energy savings also derive from more efficient appliances, mainly in the residential sector, but also more broadly in the tertiary and industrial sectors. With the EU having established one of the most complete and ambitious legislations globally with regards to energy efficiency of products, standards, labels, and programs for energy using and energy-related products, we think that we are best placed also, of course, for cooperating regionally and globally with our partners in the Mediterranean. Also with the adoption recently of the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, the Renovation Wave Communication, and a massive effort on the Renovate component of our national resilience and recovery plans, we see it as a strong basis for intensifying our international outreach on energy efficiency agendas. The EU's experience with energy efficiency policies is indeed an asset that we are, of course, very keen to share with our international partners. And in this regard, we look forward to continue cooperating with Mediterranean partners in the development of regulatory frameworks for minimum performance standards, energy labeling regulations, and support of the development of energy efficiency policies. In this regard, we are also very keen to continue the work that is being undertaken in the context of the Union for the Mediterranean, building on the Energy Declaration from 2021 and the Roadmap Action on Energy. The policy priorities and the actions identified in the UFM Ministerial Declaration adopted at the third Ministerial Conference last year have become indeed increasingly prominent and relevant in the current volatile energy context. In particular, as acknowledged in the declaration, ambitious primary renewable energy goals driven by the Mediterranean region's high potential in solar PV, onshore wind, and increasingly offshore, and renewable H2 go hand in hand with the high energy efficiency ambition as a key contributor to the energy transition. We also see a key role for the UFM energy platforms in underpinning ambitious energy efficiency roadmaps and targets, with the UFM roadmap on energy as an excellent example of how energy dialogue and engagement with regional and national Mediterranean partners can lead to ambitious coordinated energy action. So we look forward to building on the work coordinated by lead regional organizations and stakeholders and UFM member states, and on the positive outcome of the annual meeting of UFM energy platforms in February. We need to maintain and continue the positive momentum to advance progress across the 16 priority areas, including those geared towards enhancing energy efficiency in the Mediterranean region. To conclude, with a view to the COP27, we see ambitious energy efficiency policies and coordinated action at the regional level as important contributions towards lifting the level of climate ambitions at COP27. This should build upon the momentum created in the Glasgow Climate Pact and deliver enhanced mitigation ambition with a view to strengthening NDC targets in line with the Paris Agreement temperature goal. The COP27 hosted by Egypt, it will be indeed a key opportunity for the Mediterranean region to lead by example and send a strong signal on climate ambition and energy engagement and cooperation to the intervening parties. From the EU side, we're also fully committed to enhancing our adaptive capacity, strengthening resilience, reducing vulnerability through action at home, and through continued engagement and cooperation with our partners in the Mediterranean region. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matteo Fumerio, for this very interesting perspective from the DG for Energy. Thank you very much. For the matter of time, we'll pass directly to the next speaker. We have with us, I think, Mr. Hassan Al-Ajrabi from the Tunisian National Agency for Energy Efficiency. Mr. Hassan Al-Ajrabi, are you with us? Yes. Okay, تفضل Mr. Hassan Al-Ajrabi. ما زال ما سمعوكش. تفضل.
Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله. تفضل.
Vous m'entendez très bien?
Oui, très bien, oui. Allez-y, merci.
Merci. Tout d'abord, je vous remercie pour cette initiative et pour cette invitation. Et je réitère tout d'abord les excuses de notre directeur général parce qu'il n'a pas pu assister pour ce panel le matin. C'était prévu l'après-midi, mais malheureusement, il a un engagement pour ce matin. بالنسبة تسمعوا في؟ Vous m'entendez?
Oui,
Juste, je suis très content, je félicite les organisateurs pour cet événement, mes collègues du Récré et de Médéner, dont je fais partie vraiment. Je suis très content vraiment suite au succès de meetMED 1, donc on est passé à meetMED 2 et on est là pour le réussir et atteindre des objectifs très positifs sur ce programme. Les collègues, je remercie tous les panélistes parce qu'ils ont pratiquement tout dit. Juste un petit rappel par rapport aux enjeux, aux défis que connaît la région méditerranéenne. À savoir, c'est la sécurité énergétique dans la région qui connaît une dépendance à l'égard des énergies fossiles. Également, le défi qui concerne la compétitivité économique. Cette dépendance qui se traduit au niveau des pays de la Sud essentiellement par une vulnérabilité énergétique marquée essentiellement par le poids de l'énergie au niveau de la balance commerciale et également le poids de la subvention destinée au secteur de l'énergie au niveau du budget des États. Le troisième défi qui est d'ordre climatique, c'est un défi vraiment commun pour toute la région du monde. Donc, pour relever ce défi, on a parlé pas mal de fois, c'est-à-dire sur ce sujet, dans les stratégies des pays, vraiment que ça converge avec les stratégies au niveau international, notamment celles avec l'Union européenne. Pour cela, c'est-à-dire pour relever ces défis, je suppose qu'il faut accélérer tout le modèle énergétique et la nouvelle vision, il faut accélérer les plans d'action au niveau national et à travers les deux piliers principaux, les deux principaux piliers, à savoir l'efficacité, l'amélioration de l'efficacité énergétique et également le changement d'échelle au niveau des énergies renouvelables. Et actuellement, on parle, il faut se lancer vraiment vers le développement des nouvelles technologies d'efficacité énergétique et énergie renouvelable permettant la transition énergétique et la décarbonisation à travers les différents de l'économie, à travers les différents secteurs. Si je prends le cas du contexte national actuel du gouvernement tunisien, comme vous le savez, la majorité d'entre vous, c'est qu'on a deux défis. C'est de réduire la demande en énergie primaire de 30% à l'horizon 2030 et également augmenter la part des énergies renouvelables de 30% à partir de la production d'électricité à partir des énergies renouvelables à l'horizon 2030 et un objectif climatique qui vient d'être révisé, il était de l'ordre de 41% d'un taux de réduction d'intensité carbone à l'horizon 2030, qui a été révisé récemment pour s'augmenter vers 45% d'intensité carbone à l'horizon 2030. Et cet objectif, pour être réalisé, essentiellement, il provient du secteur de l'énergie, notamment l'efficacité énergétique et les énergies renouvelables. Également, la Tunisie elle a mis en place, elle s'est lancée vers une stratégie nationale de bas carbone, actuellement en cours de finalisation, et la mise en place de régulateurs du secteur électrique, et ce, en vue d'accélérer les investissements d'énergie renouvelable avec un paysage transparent et un paysage favorisant les investissements en énergie renouvelable. Si je reviens un peu en arrière par rapport au HLPD qui a été organisé en 2020, avant le Covid-19. Donc, ça a été évoqué par les collègues, tous les intervenants, la majorité des intervenants, c'est la partie relative au financement. Donc, à mon avis, il faut veiller à ce qu'il y aura une complémentarité, une synergie entre les lignes de financement qui vont être mises en œuvre au niveau national ou au niveau régional, et prévoir surtout de l'assistance technique et renforcement des capacités pour accompagner les experts ainsi que les institutions financières pour la préparation d'un dossier ou des dossiers d'investissement bancables en ce qui concerne les activités renouvelables et efficacité énergétique. Également, il y a des problèmes relatifs au taux élevé du coût d'investissement, le taux d'intérêt au taux de sortie, à travers cette une assistance technique pour l'accompagnement des lignes qui va favoriser également ou donner une bonification à ces taux d'intérêt et encourager, faciliter ces investissements. Également, toutefois, il ne faut pas oublier tout ce qui est campagne de sensibilisation et de communication pour encourager ou accéder à ces lignes de financement au niveau national et même au niveau régional. Toutefois, et vu qu'on vit, c'est-à-dire actuellement, on vit une mutation du paysage mondial, donc à savoir à travers la Covid-19, la guerre en Ukraine et également prochainement la mise en place, c'est-à-dire l'entrée en vigueur de la taxe carbone qui va vraiment peut-être bien empêcher les exportations des pays de la rive sud, très essentiellement. Donc il faut se préparer pour ces points-là, également prendre en considération pour favoriser un climat favorable ou pour atteindre les objectifs de la transition énergétique au niveau national et également pour contribuer à l'atteinte des objectifs au niveau de la région méditerranéenne et de la région MENA d'une façon générale. Je vous remercie, c'était très court. C'était aujourd'hui que je me suis préparé pour ça. Donc, on est là ouvert. Il y a pas mal de choses à partager ensemble. Surtout, je reviens sur le citré, sur les nouvelles technologies et la décarbonisation des économies à travers différents secteurs, à travers les technologies hydrogène et mobilité, et pour l'efficacité énergétique à travers les bâtiments et les équipements électroménagers. Ce sont des thématiques qui restent toujours d'actualité, qui restent une nécessité, une obligation pour les aborder, pour les accélérer, donner beaucoup d'importance à ces thématiques-là. Et toujours, il faut travailler en synergie, que ce soit à travers la stratégie de l'Union européenne et que ce soit à travers les stratégies nationales et de MEDENER et du RECRE pour atteindre ces objectifs-là. Je souhaite à la fin, c'est-à-dire bonne chance pour mes collègues de MEDENER, pour mes collègues du RECRE. Nous sommes toujours à votre côté pour contribuer à l'atteinte des objectifs fixés par le projet et pour atteindre un objectif très positif de transition énergétique dans la région. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, C. Hassan, pour cette intervention portant sur les efforts de la Tunisie vis-à-vis de la transition énergétique et vis-à-vis des accords de Paris. Merci beaucoup, mais par manque de temps, on est un peu en retard par rapport à l'agenda. Donc, je vais passer la parole aux dernières interventions. L'ingénieur Maha, elle veut intervenir, donner un peu les perspectives de l'Égypte vis-à-vis de la transition énergétique et les engagements de Paris. Merci.
صباح الخير. لو تسمحوا لي يعني في لمحة بسيطة كده نقول تجربة مصر في الانتقال الطاقي والطاقات المتجددة وكفاءة الطاقة. زي ما قال دكتور خالد في المقدمة، فعلا مصر عدت بتحديات رهيبة في مجال الكهرباء من سنة 2014 نتيجة بعض عدم الاستقرار اللي كان في المنطقة. كنا وصلنا في يوم من الأيام إن كان في نقص في الطاقة لحد 6000 ميجا، يعني رقم رهيب جدا، وكانت بيحصل انقطاعات في الكهرباء بالأيام في بعض المناطق وبالساعات في المدن الرئيسية. الحقيقة الكلمة اللي قالها الزملاء في المداخلات السابقة اللي هو الانرجي سيكيورتي، الأمن الطاقي، وبالتالي الدولة قالت لفظ إن الطاقة أمن قومي، وأخذت على عاتقها إن هي تحل المشكلة من خلال صدور بعض التشريعات والقوانين واللوائح. يعني بمنتهى البساطة طلع قانون كهرباء جديد فتح الباب قدام القطاع الخاص للاشتراك في إنشاء المحطات، توليد المحطات، شركات توزيع قطاع خاص، وفتح وبقى في مواد خاصة بالطاقات المتجددة، مواد خاصة بكفاءة الطاقة. فتح المجال إن يبقى في رؤية جديدة لهذا الانتقال الطاقي. ابتدينا اشتغلوا بالتوازي، إن هم خصصوا قطع أراضي تفوق ال 7600 كيلو متر مربع لمشروعات الطاقات المتجددة. خليني أقول إن المساحة دي فيها بوتنشال حوالي 90 جيجا وات طاقات متجددة، 55 جيجا شمسي، 35 جيجا رياح، وعندنا أسرع منطقة فيها سرعات رياح، وعندنا السطوع الشمسي عالي جدا، فبيدي كفاءة للمحطات دي إنها تتعمل. وبالفعل اشتغلوا في الاتجاهين، ابتدوا يطلعوا تشريعات جديدة وآليات جديدة لطرح هذه المشروعات من خلال القطاع الخاص، سواء الفيدن تاريف أو بنظام البي او او. على سبيل المثال، هدي مثال واحد عشان الوقت، محطة بنبان الشمسية اللي في أسوان حوالي 1500 ميجا، تعتبر رابع محطة على مستوى العالم كمحطة في مكان واحد، بيسبقها محطة في الصين ومحطتين في الهند. المحطة دي قدرنا من خلالها جذب 32 مستثمر من القطاع الخاص، مول المحطات، الصناديق اللي بتمول القطاع الخاص في مع شركاء التنمية زي الEBRD، الIFC، بروباركو. الحقيقة دي تعتبر نموذج للقطاع الخاص والانتقال الطاقي. المحطة دي لو اتكلمنا منها على التغير المناخي، فهي بتوفر 2 مليون طن كربون سنوياً، ووفرت أكثر من 10,000 فرصة عمل في هذه المنطقة. الحقيقة ده مثال بسيط أنا حبيت إن أنا أديه للشغل اللي اتعمل في الفترة. النهاردة إحنا بقى عندنا مخزون من الطاقة، عندنا 20% إضافي، وده بيدينا نقطة قوة في الربط الكهربائي مع باقي الدول ودول الجوار. لو اتكلمنا عن كفاءة الطاقة، احنا بنتعامل مع جميع المحاور زي ما ذكرت في الكلمة اللي احنا قلناها، لكن الحقيقة أحب أقف وقفة هنا بسيطة، إن احنا امبارح كنا في العاصمة الإدارية الجديدة واتفرجنا على آلية تبريد المناطق المركزية. الحقيقة صرح رائع، وهو ده نموذج للتكنولوجي ترانسفير أو تبادل التكنولوجيا، من بداية من الدراسة للاستشاري للتنفيذ، كله بخبرات مصرية، إن هو يقدر يغطي مساحة تفوق 40,000 فدان. فدي حاجة يعني كانت بصراحة فوق الخيال، وأنا ما زلت لحد دلوقتي يعني منبهرة باللي احنا شفناه امبارح. وده يأكد إن الدولة يعني مصرة إن هي تمشي في اتجاه كفاءة الطاقة بشكل رئيسي في المباني. مش هتكلم إن في أكواد صدرت، يعني إن كل الخطوات بتؤخذ، لكن لا تألو جهدا من استخدام أي تكنولوجيا جديدة أو أي حاجة جديدة. اللي عايزة أقوله برضو إن مصر كانت من الدول السباقة في إصدار السندات الخضراء، وده إدانا إيمج هايل قدام الدول فيما يخص الاقتصاد الأخضر. مش هطول عليكم أكتر من كده، ومتشكرة قوي. شكرا.
شكرا مهندسة مها على تسليط الضوء على الجهود الجبارة لدولة مصر في الانتقال الطاقوي. بطبيعة الحال بسبب ضيق الوقت أعتقد سوف نمر إلى الحصة المقبلة. وشكرا جزيلا لكل السبيكرز. Thanks a lot to all the speakers and thanks to all the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for everybody. I know it's a very intensive day, lots of condensed sessions and lots of great information. We want to digest this before we go to lunch, so we're going to have a very short session right now. So great value. First, let me welcome somebody who's not going to be with us on stage right now. She's going to be in the later stage. We're going to be saving the best for last. So that's my special greeting to Mrs. Corina Viola. She's the activity A21 leader. So we're going to listen to you definitely in the following session right after lunch, inshallah. But right now, let me invite our dear speakers and guests. Agathe Lacombe, meetMED 2 project manager, Ademi, and also Mr. Ashraf Kredi, meetMED 2 deputy project manager. Can you please come on stage? And before we listen to you, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to share a beautiful video.
Yeah, thank you.
And this video is about the project altogether, so let's see how it is. Okay, so Agathe, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, is it working now?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour, tout le monde. It's great to put faces on email address, if I can say so. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Egypt and Recre, for hosting this event, which is the first regional event of the meetMED 2 project, which holds for mitigation enabling energy transition in the Mediterranean region, in the framework of which we have this event. So my name is Agathe Lacombe. I'm the meetMED 2 project manager, and this is Ashraf Kredi. So maybe I'll leave the floor to Ashraf to introduce you to the first phase of meetMED, which led to meetMED 2. And then I'll explain to you a bit more what is the goals and context of meetMED 2 project for the coming year.
Thanks a lot, Agathe, for the introduction. It's my pleasure to be here with all of you from the Mediterranean countries, and it's our pleasure to launch the meetMED week with these audiences and speakers. Actually, the meetMED as a project was started in 2018. Once the RECRE and Medenair agreed with the European Commission as an animators of the UFM Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Platform to move on in implementing activities related to renewable energy and energy efficiency in the Mediterranean region. So as animators to the UFM platform, we were both contracted by the or funded by the European Commission to work on the renewable energy and energy efficiency activities to support the Mediterranean members, and at the same time to support the Union of Mediterranean platform. So we started the phase 1 of the project in 2018, and that phase 1 had 4 work packages. So the first one was focusing on the policies and the strategies Within this work package, we worked a lot in supporting the member states in moving on the implementation of the policies and strategies from different perspectives, either at the targeting level or designing the policies, also the quality and enabling factor for the renewable energy and energy efficiency factors. The work package 2 of the meetMED 1 was focusing on capacity building, where different activities as designed and organized, tackling different perspectives and different topics in the field of capacity building and knowledge transfer from the north to the south, and knowledge exchange between the southern countries. The work package 3 was focusing on the private investment, private sector mobilization. And within this work package, market analysis has been done to some of the countries, and investment enablers analysis was also concluded. We identified some of the investment areas in the field of energy efficiency and renewable energy to move on in the field of investment. The last work package was focusing on regional cooperation and regional dialogue. And within this work package, we had one of the initiatives that we launched with the high-level policy dialogue, the MED-HLPD, where we focused on financing or streaming financing towards renewable energy, energy efficiency projects. And also there were some major events like the Medener conferences that had been done twice during the project lifetime. So once we finish the meetMED 1 by end of 2019 almost, so we started to talk about the meetMED 2 projects, and luckily we had the confidence of the European Commission as both RICRI and Medener to start the meetMED 2 project in the beginning of 2021. And the meetMED 2 projects, where I hand the floor to my colleague Agathe to speak about.
Thank you, Ashraf. Asma, do you have the presentation I prepared, maybe? The slides? No? She's looking. No? Okay, never mind. I'll just speak. Yes, so as Ashraf said, following the success of meetMED 1, meetMED 2 started, which objectives is still to enhance the energy security of the beneficiary countries, which all the flags are here. So Algeria, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Morocco, Palestine, and Tunisia, while fostering their energy transition and transition to clean, to low carbon economy. So meetMED 2 will act as an energy transition fostering project, doing the upstream work of policy support and raising of awareness, so that it can activate more concrete actions and involvement and sustainable investment of the private sector. Thank you. What is it? Sorry. So that it can foster concrete action and investments which could follow through. So basically the main objectives of meetMED 2 are the massive deployments of renewable energy, efficiency measures, so it means regulation, energy efficiency building codes, and so on. And the other main objective is to raise the public awareness on the energy stakes and challenges, so that it can increase thereby the private and public involvement in energy transition. So as we do the upstream work, we intend to find synergies with other regional and international projects. As we do the policy support and the awareness raising and the capacity building as well, we intend to find synergies with other projects that could either finance, and I'm thinking about the PIB implemented by the EFD and the GIZ, or other regional cooperation to exchange good practices and information on such topics. So the meetMED 2 activities intend to do all this by including and acting at a multi-scale and multi-partner approach at the regional, from the local level to the regional one and to the international one. So our targets are the national agencies, the local authorities, as well as national institutions such as ministries, from which we have some representatives today. To gather all these stakeholders around the table and to start on the same page to go to clean energy transition in the Med region. So the main outputs we hope to get by the end of the project would be on one side, so the increase of regulation and their harmonization in the region, the structuration of markets by deployments of tools and capacity building of the main stakeholders, the awareness on the financing instruments that are available, so increase the visibility of financing instruments to stakeholders, and of course increase awareness, because this is the starting point. And all this through close cooperation in the region, which is the reason why we are here, to meet and exchange and share good practices, because as one colleague said, it's a people project, and when we meet each other, I truly believe that it can foster the sharing of information and the getting closer in the cooperation. So I'm really happy to get the chance to meet you in presence here. But I still say hello to all the people who join online, and I hope the next events will organize in the framework of meetMED Week, which might be 2 other regional events in the coming years, will be the occasion to meet more and more. So thank you, and I'm done.
So thank you very much, Agat. And as we can see, it's going to be a very rich 4 days. Lots of expectations. We tried something when we were working with the European Union. Again, they're doing a great job, as I mentioned earlier. I'm repeating this again. But we had something when we worked on Tibet, which was the WSR, the whole system in the room. And I think we have this over here. We have the whole system in the room. We have every, as you mentioned right now, Agat, we have every stakeholder in the place. I was happy also to see one of my dear friends and one of the young people who are really carrying a big responsibility right now in the whole construction and establishment of the new capital for Egypt. Mr. Haytham Atta is with us over here. He was telling me about the visit yesterday to the new capital. Everybody's here. We have the legislating bodies, we have the entities, we have the governments, we have the EU, we have the best practices, we have the different players across every area of knowledge over here, capacity building and all the way until fruition and investment also. So I hope the 4 days will be of great value. We're going to come up with real products in the end. There's this famous movie I remember a long time ago in my generation, Jerry Maguire, where the guy was telling them, show me the money. So hopefully we want to see the money in terms of real tangible outcomes. I will not have the privilege to be with you the rest of the days, but I do thank you a lot. Everybody knows me in this country, knows I'm always linked to positivity and being optimistic. But actually, I would like to thank you all, because you gave me a great dose of positive energy, and looking forward to great outcomes of this event, inshallah. Thank you very much. I think it's now time for lunch. Enjoy lunch and come fully energized to go for the rest of the sessions. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for your participation. And I'm presenting you in this moment briefly the meetMED Week. In this afternoon, there will be the first session about Sustainable Energy Investment Forum. And the goal of this session is to facilitate the discussion among the stakeholders, to identify the barriers and support the necessary changes in the national legal framework, and to exchange of good practices in developing sustainable energy investment projects and programs. In the first session, at the beginning is a general overview, and after we have a technical session. The next Okay. Sorry. Sorry. Tomorrow, the all day is dedicated on concerted action on buildings, and the building sector is responsible from 20% up to 35% of the total energy consumption of each country in this region. To reduce it, every country have been implemented some measure, but despite government institution and the regulatory and legal framework, all this measure is evolving slowly. For this reason, the concerted action is focused on to harmonize the energy efficiency legislation and policy on for buildings. In particular, in the morning, the session is a general overview and a keynote presentation. We are high-level speakers, and in the afternoon there will be a technical specific session on specific topics. The day after is all dedicated on appliances. And appliances are one of the highest consumer in the south and eastern Mediterranean countries. And this concerted action aims to assist policymakers for the harmonization on energy efficiency legislation and standards in these countries. As for the previous concerted action on buildings, in the morning we will have a general presentation and a roundtable with high-level speakers, and in the afternoon a technical session. The last day we have in the morning one technical session on monitoring of energy efficiency. And this session is focused on harmonization of energy efficiency indicators and on exchange of good practices of data collection, of energy efficiency trends analysis, and national energy efficiency and action plans development and implementation. For the other concerted action, we have a general introduction and after a specific session on technical items. In the afternoon, we will have the closing plenary that will be an important wrapping up moment when rapporteurs of a previous session will provide a summary of their individual session and the takeaway messages that will be inserted in the meetMED letter of intent that will be presented in the next COP27 meetings. This letter of intent represents the meetMED position, common position for the decarbonization of the Mediterranean areas. I finished and with some general tips for those in presence. From 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. there will be a welcome coffee outside the room, this room. And from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Lunch at Excelsior second room. For those online, please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Please avoid the background noises when your microphone is not mute, and please put the camera in the right way. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon everybody. I'm Alessandro Federici from Enea, from Italy, and I am the work package leader of the work package 2 about policies and measures. And so maybe this should not be, let's say, my session, given work package 2 is about policies and measures, about buildings, appliances, and their monitoring. But as I added also this morning in the words of many of the speakers we had, the financing of the energy efficiency of action is one of the essential key enabling factors to facilitate actions and the acceleration we added we need to meet the long-term targets of the decarbonization. So it's really a pleasure for me to give the floor to both Maged and then online Eduardo for this very interesting session. We need to know what are the barriers and then what are the current available tools for the financing, and to share our experience just to then with the goal to accelerate the rate of renovation of buildings and of replacement of appliances for the decarbonization targets we had in the long term. Thank you very much. Please, Maged, the floor is yours.
Presentation, please. It's a pleasure being with you today. And I'm going to briefly, I know that we are a bit late, so I'm going to briefly introduce the work under meetMED, under the access to finance pillar. And in fact, the purpose of this work package, as we call it under meetMED, is to facilitate dialogue and visibility of different financial instruments, financial tools, and other I would say instruments that would help the countries to upscale not only energy efficiency in building and appliances, but the sustainable energy in general. But we are focusing more on energy efficiency in building and appliances and equipments. And beside enhancing the visibility of existing funds and initiating dialogue similar to what we have through the meetMED week, we are going also to showcase what are the mechanisms for funding energy efficiency and appliances in different countries. And here we would look into not only the existing mechanism, but also what would be the innovative mechanisms that would work with the region. And then we will introduce some tools that would help the project holders to access finance within certain phases of the project. So we have 4 key intervention areas: the business models, finance, web tools to help the developers, the forums that we are convening today, and we'll elaborate more on that through Eduardo, my colleague here from Enea, and a special package on training, and this is dedicated to the banking sector, and we are focusing more on the local banks that would be enabled to work in the energy efficiency and appliances domain. We know that they have a lot of experience right now in many countries in the region in financing renewable energy projects, in financing energy efficiency in the industrial sector and maybe commercial sector to a certain extent. But here for the building sector and for the appliances, we need to have more, I would say, engagement from the banks. So for the business models, we will have, in fact, 2 important reports, one on the financing capability guides, and the other is on innovative finance, climate finance available worldwide right now. And I assume this would give some sort of, I would say, a taxonomy of what is happening beside a list of where to access finance. And here we would look into the business models and come up with 3 innovative business models. And we will rely on the projects that are within the meetMED project itself, as well as other projects that are recommended by our beneficiary countries. And we'll have 4 capacity development events in 4 countries dedicated to how to create a viable business model. what are the options that would meet the need of this specific country, and also to get a better knowledge on the region. And of course, we should have interaction with IFIs and local banks, so we would have a well-elaborated discussion with those actors from the banking sector and IFIs. Having said that, we move now to the, I would say, enhancing the implementation capacities of the different actors. And this will be done through a set of web tools for project owners especially. And we will start, of course, by mapping what is existing as tools online and so on. And then we will couple this with the existing incentives, the carrots, and also the penalties that exist in case of non-compliance. And having these two together would enable us to design the platform. But before that, we will engage closely with national stakeholders and regional actors also to discuss the design of this web tool. Once we have the design, we will, in fact, have it tender. The conceptual design will be done, then we'll have a tender, and then we'll have it deployed and implementing, and then marketed to all actors. The second part is modules for banking. And in this part, we will develop three dedicated capacity development modules, the materials for the banking sector, in 3 areas: the EE labels and MEPs, mandatory energy performance standards, the green buildings, and new and innovative financing schemes. Once we have that, we will test these training modules within 4 capacity development programs in the beneficiary countries. So this is the second part. And you can see how we are engaged within all the work package with all actors. And here come the part of the MED Sustainable Energy Investment Forum, and I will leave this to Eduardo to explain more. We will have a nice discussion, and also to Roberta to elaborate how we are going to build this Sustainable Energy Investment Forum, because we think this is an important tool that would help the countries to have some sort of an observatory inside the country of what is being financed, how it is financed, and also to create synergies among different stakeholders, among other things that would be elaborated well by Eduardo and Roberta. And by this, I conclude my presentation. I'll meet you later in the panel discussion, but now I'll give the floor to my colleague Eduardo, who is online. He's from INEA, and I hope, please bring him on board. Okay, Eduardo, the floor is yours.
Hello, Maged. Thank you very much. I have some slides, but I cannot share them, so if,
can we share this?
Okay, if it's not a problem, I will go forward, without sharing them. Okay, hello everyone. It's a great pleasure to be virtually here with you and to introduce the work of the MED Sustainable Energy Investment Forum. I will shortly introduce you to the work of the MED Forum, and after give the floor to Roberta Boniotti. So the MED Forum, the main aim is to boost investment and financing for energy efficiency at national level. What this means is to activate private sector investment, enhance access to finance for energy efficiency projects, and help replicate and scale up best practice and innovative approaches. As was said before from Maged, first of all, this will be done through mapping and engaging all relevant and public and private stakeholders in different countries, map the relevant financial tools, measures, initiatives in the each different countries, identify the project that could be funded thanks to the project technical assistance, and with the final aim to establish a permanent and high-level national forum of discussion and exchange of information, experiences, and good practice in the different countries. So how is done this? This will be done, the core of the activities of the MED Forum are the national roundtable that are organized both within the meetMED weeks and during national events that we have in different countries. So the aim of this national roundtable will be, first of all, to facilitate the dialogue between banks, financial partners, public authorities, and all different stakeholders that are involved in delivering investment in sustainable energy, is to improve the visibility of already existing funds, to present good practices and innovative funding mechanisms, both for buildings and for appliances, and to identify the current barriers, single out the enabling conditions, and the necessary amendments that it has to be done in the legal framework to enable a conducive business environment. The national events that will be held within the meetMED weeks are going to be 3, included this one, and 5 national events will be done outside the meetMED weeks. What needs to be done so for all this to start? So first of all, we need your participation in order to start engage different stakeholders in the targeted countries. We will have to select national contact points and a network of experts within each country. After that, we will need some data and information, and we will start to gather them through communication and networking activities with the stakeholders, so to discuss with them, together with them, their expectation and the proposed inputs, their inputs for the national roundtable to identify which are the most important topics for them, which are the most important issues that need to be discussed first. After, there will be also, this will be done also through interviews with key stakeholders in order to go more in depth in this aspect, so to be sure that during the roundtable, important issues and matters are really discussed, and that have also a practical aspect and not just a theoretical one. And last but not least is the selection of the host countries among Algeria, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Palestine, and Tunisia, where to hold these roundtables. So this is my, I use this occasion to announce that now the candidatures are open, so please contact us if you are interested to participate in the roundtable, and if you think you could want to be part as national contact point or part of the network of the stakeholders. Just a concluding note, the MED Sustainable Energy Investment Forum takes inspiration from the European experience, where there is already a sustainable energy investment forums, and there are already examples of national roundtable ongoing on financing energy efficiency, and there is an important group that is the Energy Efficiency Financial Institution that discussed in close collaboration with the SEI Forum all these important issues. And with this, I will leave the floor to Roberta Bognotti, MEDNER General Secretariat, that will discuss with the high-level speaker all these European initiatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edoardo and Maged before. So my name is Roberta Bognotti, and I'm the Secretary General of MEDNER, that you know well. I can imagine after this morning and during the afternoon, we are coordinator together with Recre of the meetMED project. And I'm here today, but I'm also EU advisor for European policies at Enea Italy. So I work in Brussels. I'm based in Brussels. So I'm particularly pleased to introduce the keynote presentations for this session today about financing. We've heard this morning that energy efficiency first is a crucial, is a main important principle to facilitate the energy transition. We've heard that investments are needed, and green finances is becoming really important, and financing is becoming green. So we need to accelerate, we need to act now, we need to have fundings. What are the key messages that we can give? Based on the European experience, I would like to introduce three important and successful experiences regarding the SEI forums in Europe, that are the Sustainable Energy Investment Forums. And we'll have for this Annette Jan, that head of sector from the CINEA, it's an executive agency of the European Commission. Peter Sweatman, that's rapporteur to the European Commission and to the UNEP about the EFIG, the Energy Efficiency Financial Institution Group, and Cristina Casella, program manager at DG Neighboring, about the Climate First City program. So, the European Commission and the rapporteur to the European Commission to describe the experience in Europe, the successful experience about financing energy efficiency. Just two key messages. Multi-level stakeholders dialogue is necessary, is important, is crucial, and multi-level governance. But we'll hear more from them. And then, of course, these will be key messages also for the next roundtable. I don't know if we have Annette.
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Roberta. Thank you very much for the very kind introductory words. It's a very great pleasure and an honor for me to be here today and share our experience with the Sustainable Energy Investment Forums initiative. Apologies that this is a virtual participation. Turbulent times are difficult to manage, but I'm glad that we can join you in this way. Now, I will try to share the screen to show my presentation. Having said this, it is indeed true. The platform doesn't seem to allow this, so I'll proceed without the presentation, and I hope that with the words I can convey to you the messages that we wanted to share with you today. So our work, Roberta shortly mentioned, we are working for the CINEA Executive Agency, which is a branch of the European Commission. Our core work is to offer financial funding, financial support for pioneers to break market barriers for energy efficiency. So in European acronyms, you would be looking at programs which are called Horizon Europe, or programs which are called Life Energy, Clean Energy Transition Program. But that's basically the hosting umbrella. What is inside is what is important. So we work intensively on solutions to scale up investment flows into cleaner energy, notably energy efficiency, and today, compared to about, I would say 7 years ago when we started this journey, today about 1/3 of our energy efficiency funding is actually devoted to this line of work. So we are basically the energy efficiency policy support program, if you wish, in direct support to many of the political initiatives, but also to the regulatory environment that you have heard already about this morning. I only mention, of course, our target setting. I mentioned the Renovation Wave initiative, but of course on all of the topics that you will debate over the next days, notably the Building Directive or the Energy Efficiency Directive with its energy efficiency first principle enshrined. Here, the EU, as we share, has very clear targets to deliver as many as your administrations. At the same time, we are cruelly aware that a current level of investment into sustainable energy are not enough to meet these goals. So we'll require a substantial use of private finance. And now we do know that money normally flows where there are the least barriers, but actually not quite without really very good facilitation. Now, our approach is that we are working on 3 pathways, on 3 avenues, if you want. Firstly, we're working on what we call de-risking. Here we are helping financiers and investors to simply better understand energy efficiency investment so that they consider this as part of their standard business. Our second avenue of work that we are highly engaged in is to make a much better use of public funding, so to actually reserve our grants for activities which will lever private finance. in order to make the best use of this and reserve the grants for those areas which are much more vulnerable. The third avenue is that we are helping the project developers with technical assistance and aggregation. Here we're trying to solve the barrier that energy efficiency investment, as you notice very well, you're all experts to this and observers to this. Energy efficiency is fragmented and often in many segments, notably, for example, in the building segment, which you will debate very intensively over the next days, is in fragmented small slices and needs to be aggregated, needs to be bundled in order to make them attractive for the finance industry. So all of this work is not exactly the part of that I was invited to share with you today. So we've got a rich wealth of about 100 million worth of projects which are delivering this work on an annual basis. And we have about 100 projects, of which some of the ambassadors are actually with you over the next days. But all of this work does not yet succeed on its own. What we realized with this journey is that it also needs a fundamentally different way of how the public sector and how private actors work together on the one side. At the same time, also within markets, within the different value chain steps of markets, we also need the actors to work and basically speak to each other in a different way. And this is where our European, if you want, Sustainable Energy Forums initiative came in. So we created this initiative in around 2017, which was very much the momentum of the EFIC, so the Energy Efficiency Financial Institution Group's work, groundbreaking, if I may already anticipate what Peter will tell you in a moment about. That was actually the momentum when the Sustainable Energy Forums initiative was founded, and which actually gained momentum also alongside the work that the EFIC group has importantly put forward. So it's a European Commission initiative, but very important and very close collaboration with national administrations. And very quickly, we really found a blueprint of the most urgent themes which were very common between the different administrations. If I had my slides, you would be seeing actually quite a nice selection of the themes which are debated at these sustainable energy investment fora. But of course, they're turning much around how to mobilize the financial sector, how to get solutions into renovation of public buildings, how to solve the very challenging solutions for renovating our homes, or, for example, on industry, how to turn energy audits into real investments. So basically the main themes, the main threats around the sustainable energy investment fora debated within the European sphere is really around renovation of buildings and getting the industry prepared for the clean energy transition. Now, obviously, the energy sector is much vaster, but these were the two areas on which we found that the administrations had urgent, pressing, but also concrete ideas of how to move forward. Now, what is actually a sustainable energy investment forum? So basically, it's a meeting place. It's a meeting place, but not only. It is, first of all, a meeting place which is focused on national needs. We did also start with European and regional conferences, and that moved as the agenda moved along, and also as knowledge was gaining ground, we actually moved into the detail. We moved into the national administrations, and which means a roundtable is really focused on national needs, but of course enriched with an agenda of examples of initiative across border of different countries in different contexts, but facing similar challenges in order to not lose the opportunity of actually getting inspired by examples which have already worked in another country. It's closed workshops. Key market stakeholders are actually handpicked and invited upon invitation. And the forum really focuses on dialogue on solutions, and which also means that there is actually a lot of time for brainstorming and discussion, and the topics and questions are shared, are elaborated in detail beforehand, and are shared with the participants in advance, so that the discussions can really carry very concrete flavor, and that at the end of the process there is a real action plan which is elaborated. Now, the second feature of these roundtables, and I think that is probably the most important, the second feature is actually that a roundtable is actually people. Now that sounds very, very evident, but here in these roundtables, what makes part of the success, we believe, is that indeed the stakeholders to be invited are selected, are invited personally based on their specific expertise, and that there's really a hard effort put into having all of the sectors which are relevant. Of course, the finance sector, be it the public and the private part, retail banks, national promotional banks, investment funds. We need the public sectors, all of the relevant ministries, of course, at the regional and local level included. And notably, we've observed that really the energy agencies, national energy agencies, but also their peers at regional level are really driving the process as well. Obviously, market actors in all of their breadth needed for the thematic detail, be it energy services companies, the construction sector, industry federations, utilities, and of course, the civil society, so in form of normally part of consumer organizations sharing their views in bringing this into the debate. The fora itself, they are usually characterized by highly participative tools. So as I said, a lot of brainstorming discussion, a very small but absolutely important feature is that we've chosen to run the fora under what we call the Chatham House rule, which means that statements are recorded, statements can be taken into records and notes and minutes and be brought forward, but they're not attributed to those who made them, and which makes it really possible to have very, very free discussions which are really driven by the actual subject. Now, I would say missing the slides. I'll just give you one example from one country in order not to overwhelm with words. I'd like to highlight one example just to show you how a journey can look like. I was asked to share examples and where countries have actually taken the opportunity of the Sustainable Energy Investment Forum and have actually taken it forward to the benefit of their policy, which is of course enshrined in the European policy. So I'll pick the example of Italy. Here, really, I think Italy is what we would call, with all of the efforts of all of the administrations, really in honor. But I do believe that Italy is really very much of an exemplary role of how the administrations use the opportunity of an SEI forum in short. Here, we've actually arranged already as one of the first pioneers in 2017, 2 public events and 2 roundtables. The success ingredients was that the roundtable was very much hosted and advocated by the relevant ministries, so the Ministry for Economic Development, but also by the national agency, INEA, and that made the big difference, the Italian Banking Federation. So here, it was really the strong participation of the banking sector directly in the fora, which, for example, in Italy, boosted really the uptake of the energy efficiency mortgage initiative. Some of you may have heard this. It's basically a green mortgage initiative, which is hosted at the European level, and in which today about 70 banks and financial institutions are actually have actually joined. Having said this, it was really in Italy, thanks to the SEI forum, where there was a particularly high participation rate of Italian banks, and which basically was very much inspired and debated in this forum. Now, moving on, today, once that we have basically given our convening support to the Italian administrations for hosting these roundtables, it was actually the Italian Banking Association who picked up the initiative and who founded an institutional working group in their own merit, together with all of the players, in order to notably accelerate the renovation rate in Italy. And since last year, actually, the dialogue platform has actually moved into a permanent platform, and which, of course, is still very busy and working basically down the political and the political agenda which has been supported by all of the members of this roundtable, and which is really a very, very exemplary example. Now I come to my concluding remarks. What are our feedbacks from about 40 events that we held in 16 countries over the last 3 to 4 years? Now, I think there has been a word, a formulation which was offered earlier in the introduction, that a forum of this kind can become kind of an observatory. And yes, it can be seen in such a way, that there is a knowledge gathering and a knowledge hub which is basically created, and which is certainly a very unique model of gathering knowledge, and sharing experiences. What we believe in is that one of the key feedback is that really the model of these SEI forum roundtables did really meet a real demand. If I take the loop back to the start, mobilizing finance for clean energy investment does need a fundamentally different dialogue, but really a dialogue at the working level. We all know that in the end of the day, changing regulation, fine-tuning funding programs to actually create the desired effects does need a level of detailed knowledge which is needed in these fora, and this is why the dialogue needs to take place between practitioners, but of course framed with a vision and strategic view which really goes into the future proof. The SEI Forum created, therefore, in our experience, really a unique model with all the stakeholders at equal footing, which allows to have really concrete action plans. And what we did see happening is threefold. We did see happening revision of regulation. We did see happening that funding programs got adapted, and that new financial instruments in the different administrations were offered to the private sector and together with the private sector. And probably the last point to mention, and the softest but probably the most valuable asset of this SEI Forum movement, as I would rather call it, because it really does make a movement across all of the member states, and a lot of keen interest of administrations to host such a roundtable, that it does really create long-standing cooperation platform for stakeholders and between stakeholders, in which closes really one of the biggest barriers. And therefore, we believe that it's really a future-proof model of such fora, and I can only encourage and invite and share the positive experience that we've had with the about 5,000 stakeholders of the last 3 to 4 years that we engaged through these fora, and to hopefully convey some of their very positive feedback and vibes into the future work that you will be undertaking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Annette. I'm very sorry for the slides, but for sure we will distribute the slides that are really important also to show the experience not just of Italy but of other 2 countries that are in particular Belgium and Spain, but there are of course 16 countries, as Annette mentioned, and so many stakeholders involved. The key message is dialogue, both at regional and at national level. Therefore, we are trying to replicate in the meetMED project the Mediterranean Sustainable Energy Investment Forums, both at regional level and at national level, as Eduardo explained before. It's important, of course, to put together the different stakeholders, and I want to stress once more that it's important to have ministries, to put together ministries, energy agencies that are the technical arm of ministries in many of our countries, and so technical experts and the association of banks, because public funds are not enough. We must have the private funding with us. We must have a leverage effect on this. So let's go to the second presentation from Peter Swedman. I hope he's online. Peter, if you have a presentation, please share your slides from your computer, or otherwise we'll discuss. about the Energy Efficiency Financial Institution Group.
Thank you very much, Roberta. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for virtually hosting me here in Cairo, for this most excellent opportunity to share some of the work of the Energy Efficiency Financial Institutions Group. Indeed, I will be sharing my slides. Let me just try, while I speak, to do exactly that. 1 second. Let me see. So, share screen, screen 2, share. Just if anybody could let me know if you can see.
It's okay, we
that
can see them.
screen.
Thank you, Peter.
You can see it?
Yes.
Okay, super. Very good. All right. So, as Annette mentioned, the Energy Efficiency Group, Energy Efficiency Institutions Group, Energy Efficiency Financial Institutions Group, which I'm the rapporteur for, has in fact been working on the questions that relate to why we don't see greater amounts of investment capital and finance flowing into energy efficiency since it was formed by the Commission and the United Nations Environment Programme's Financial Initiative in 2013. In 2015, we reported on the first 2 years of activity in a detailed report. And in 2021, at the COP26 in this December in Glasgow, we launched a report which essentially provides an update as to what happened in the intervening 5 years since the Energy Efficiency Financial Institutions Group first wrote about what had happened. So in this presentation, what I will do, it's just 10 slides of content, and previously in the chat and again afterwards, I will put the link to the formal report, which I think you will all find very interesting to review. In essence, when we look back across 5 years to see what had happened to energy efficiency investments, we noticed that largely speaking across Europe, they had remained fairly constant. We had successfully changed the way in which the public sector looked at energy performance contracts, which prior to our work had seen just the debt component of them without seeing the energy savings, because energy savings is a expectation of a saving against future operational costs, which we worked on changing so that now public authorities can make more confident energy performance contracts. We launched a database, the link to which I've also put into the chat, which catalogs currently 23,000 buildings, industry and SME projects across Europe in different countries. That database is called the De-risking Energy Efficiency Platform, DEEP. It is Europe's largest energy efficiency project database, and I'm certain for all of the activities that have been outlined for the meetMED conference and for the Mediterranean region, you will find these projects extremely eye-opening because whilst the buildings categorization and the industrial categorization is very similar, and there is all kinds of projects and all kinds of detail there. Each one of the projects, of course, is a real project, and all of the work has been done together with the EFIC members, financial institutions, over the last 5 years. We also developed a set of standards for financial institutions' energy efficiency investment processes, and that sounds very similar to one of the things I heard our introductory speaker talk about for tools for financial institutions. Those remain available. Again, I'll send the link, and I think it's a very useful initial guide for thinking and framing energy efficiency investment projects within financial institutions. So, of course, there are still barriers. And one of the things that, of course, we know very well about energy efficiency investments is that because an energy efficient choice is often a slightly more expensive choice than an energy inefficient choice, when looked at from just purely the initial cost outlay, you need to understand something more about an energy efficiency choice. So a more efficient air conditioner or a more efficient process in industry or a more energy efficient building to build can cost, not always the case, but can cost more than the inefficient equivalents. And therefore, we do need to understand about the performance of energy efficiency investments in order to make and justify those higher investment costs. We also have higher transaction costs in the pure energy efficiency domain. So what that means is often when you're just investing in energy savings, the transaction size is a lot smaller than, say, building infrastructure in the first place. And in that case, sometimes the amount of legal costs and advisory and other assessments can be a higher proportion of the amount invested, which makes energy efficiency transaction costs as a proportion of the total higher than, say, in renewable energy. Some energy efficiency projects, of course, have a lack of data, and therefore the risk characteristics are less well known. Also, each energy efficiency project has to perform in its own environment. So the performance characteristics for that environment individually may not be known. And some market segments have a harder time accessing finance, such as low-income households and small and medium enterprises, typically. We always say in EFIG that the limited availability of reliable information and the lack of real energy efficiency performance data is indeed a growing issue, and we hear that all the time from our members. Given the limited time, what I will restrict myself to do in this presentation, just this initial presentation, is really focus on some of the key recommendations that we made in December to the Commission in the context of the COP26. So really what we said is summarized in 2 slides, but we said that concerted policy action that leaves no doubt of the importance of energy security and efficiency, with things like binding targets at a national level, compliance with standards and so on, is absolutely critical to give the signal that energy efficiency should be placed first. We said that segment by segment energy efficiency programs, so that means programs that are dedicated to specific segments of our economy. So that could be the public building space, specifically say for hospitals, specifically say for schools, can be led by exemplar approaches to the public sector. A plan of work is needed across multiple years. So if you're a contractor into any of these sectors, say the steel sector, you need to know where the sector itself is going to know what kinds of technologies and processes need to be upgraded. Thirdly, we need to evaluate energy efficiency investment levels at the member state and indeed together with the member state level activities to provide a faster feedback loop into the policy cycle. One of the things that we've seen now increasingly is as our levels of energy and climate ambition rise, with the necessity to align with the Paris Agreement, and of course, as everybody has seen in recent days, with the need to reduce our dependence on our fossil gas particularly, the policy cycle needs to be faster and we need to be quicker at getting the information as to what works and what doesn't work back into the system. Number 4, we need to embed energy efficiency choices directly into all public procurement rules and into EC-funded projects, including the Energy Efficiency First principle. So the Energy Efficiency First principle, I'm happy to say, has an EFIG working group working on it as we speak, and will be producing a report to help financial institutions integrate into their own operations and processes the Energy Efficiency First principle. That will be ready by the end of this year. But it's guides like that where the operational details of energy efficiency first need to be plugged into procurement and all kinds of public-led funding instruments. Fifthly, we need to facilitate the development of low-carbon heat networks, and we need to modernize the existing ones. So I think as my sort of introductory words really draw to a close, trying to limit myself to the 10 minutes that I was allotted, the final slide I'm going to share with you show a way in which energy efficiency can be enhanced. Well, the remainder of the key recommendations we made to the Commission, but one thing that we're all aware of is how the discussions around the Europe EU taxonomy definitions have matured and how the first round of those definitions was put into law through the silence procedure in December of last year, and how that provides a frame to deliver more significant energy savings through the public and private funds together. So we sort of clearly hope that across different industries and different subgroups and in buildings, we will optimize public funds by only using grants, you know, in the case where other instruments like loans and guarantees are not feasible. We'll make it easier to report on smaller energy efficiency investments in a streamlined manner, and of course always aligned with the EU's taxonomy. We also believe that we need to see the development of some larger scale financial instruments which can collaborate with distribution partners. So here the distinction is really, it's not that, so we've never said as a group that we lack the money or the capital markets can't provide energy efficiency. There's really a lot of liquidity available. However, the bottleneck seems to be in distribution. So that is, if you have to distribute, so say in Europe, we have a challenge to do 35 million deep renovations in the next 8 years to meet the call of the EU renovation wave. To do millions of transactions, you need distribution networks and retail related branch offices and organizations that can deliver to millions of corporates and buildings and customers in order to mobilize these amounts of money. So whatever instruments we design, they need to be able to go beyond the pilots and the regional programs, which until this point in time we have seen really dominate. We also need to improve annual reporting on energy efficiency investments. My colleagues and I, who are also co-leading a working group on data this year, can only echo the difficulty which we have encountered digging through the reports that are provided by financial institutions on their sustainable activities, and how hard within that it is to see energy efficiency sometimes. The same is true to some degree for how member states report sector by sector across the EU, particularly for existing buildings and in existing industries, for example. And then finally, we make a call for the systematic reporting to central databases. And here, central databases could include energy performance certificate databases, which of course are extremely useful to financial institutions when they are available, but they're just not available in all of the countries. And of course, we highlight DEEP, which is the database that I mentioned earlier, which could be made mandatory for any. So the inclusion of projects that receive public funding clearly should be mandatory, so that we can see the results of those public funds. So I think I'll stop here. There are more slides that I could go through, but I think in the interest of time and noting our delay, I will probably withhold the other remarks for the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your really fruitful insights and for the experience of the Energy Efficiency Financial Institution Group that's running, that has been running since 2013 now. There are more than 300 actors that are members of the platform, and it is now a permanent platform, very important, and will of course, look at the general recommendations that can be, some of them even applied in our case for the Mediterranean region. And it's very important also to consider the de-risking energy efficiency platform with the projects, because of course, there's a lack of reliable information also for financial institutions, and the real energy efficiency performance is important, of course, to start cooperating with banks and financial institutions. There's also the underwriting tool that's important to assist banks, financial institutions in supporting investments in energy efficiency. There are a lot of takeaways for us from your experience. Now let's go to the third speaker, Cristina Casella. She's program manager at DG Neighboring. And so we are now looking at the need for multi-level governance, because of course we are talking about national stakeholders, but it's very important to enhance the local authorities and to work with them to have really an improvement in financing and in considering also the sustainable energy and climate action plans of the different countries. Christina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope that you can all hear me well.
Yes.
Okay, so I will continue. So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me this afternoon to speak at this very interesting event. I was asked to say a few words about the new program that we have called Climate for Cities, which is really about finding innovative ways to unlock financing to drive the energy and the climate transition at the local level in the southern neighborhood. So before I dive into Climate for Cities per se, I'd like to say just a few words of introduction by saying a few words about the background of the program. So as EU, we have been supporting, of course, climate action in the southern neighborhood region now for many years, both through bilateral projects and also through regional projects. And when it comes to regional climate action projects, we have a very successful project called meetMED, which, as you see, has been in operation now since 2018 and is still in operation now. So this program covers southern neighborhood countries, and you can see the list here on the slides. And it broadly works on 3 work streams, work packages. So on the first work package, the program assists national administrations in the mainstreaming of climate change into national strategies and plans, into climate change coordination, climate governance, awareness raising, and so on. The second work package is more specifically targeted at the local level and it assists cities and local authorities in the design, implementation, and monitoring of their sustainable energy access and climate action plans, which I'm sure you have heard already about. I'm really sorry. So it also does provide, I'm really sorry, I have a little problem. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. Don't worry, if you prefer, we can wait some seconds otherwise.
I think I need a few minutes break. I will come back.
Okay, we can just briefly summarize until now what are the messages that we got. I think it's very important to consider the dialogue, both at regional and, in our case, at European level, but particularly at national level. We must succeed with our meetMED project, and I'm looking at our colleagues here, in creating dialogue in the countries at the national level. We have to involve policymakers, technical experts, energy agencies, and financial institutions, of course, because we need also the support of the banks, and they need to be aware of what's happening, and the only way is dialogue. The only way is having a dialogue to identify the barriers and the opportunities, because in each country there are different barriers at the national level, different opportunities, different needs. So we need to replicate a little bit this model, taking into account our countries in the Mediterranean region, of course. It's very important to have databases, to have data, reliable data for banks, for financial institutions, and also the support of technical experts to understand that and to have really dialogue that could become permanent with the permanent platforms. The third message would be the local authorities. I don't know if we can go back to Christina, otherwise I would suggest to go to the round table and then we can come back to the presentation of the climate for cities. I think for now we have enough food for thought for the next roundtable. So I'm giving the floor to Majed, who will be moderating the next roundtable, and then maybe we can continue.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. Actually, I'm having a problem with my throat, but luckily my colleague Cyril is here today. He knows very well the project, so he will actually present on my behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. For sure, we will be circulating your slides, and thank you very much, Christina. And I will give the floor now to Majed for the roundtable.
Thank you very much for being patient with us. I know we are a bit delayed, and thanks for those who are still with us online. We really appreciate your time and effort, and this shows how difficult to have a mix between virtual and in-person events. Nevertheless, allow me to start immediately. I hope that the colleagues are still online. Maybe we call the colleagues now. We have with us here on the floor Mr. Abdelkader Bakouche from the Tunisian Agency for Energy Conservation, and he is replacing Dr. Fathi El-Hanchi, the General Director, and we would like to thank him for giving us his time and being with us today in Egypt. And online, I hope that we have some of the speakers with us. Mr. Asen Gashrov, is he with us online? Mr. Asen? I'd like to ask the speaker, the panelists to join us online. I know some of them has to leave. So we have with us Mr. Asen Gashrov, Senior Energy Efficiency Expert at EIB, the European Investment Bank. Hopefully also Mr. David Kanaradze, and he is the CEO of GNA Finance. And unfortunately, we had Dr. Rasmi Hamza, who had to go to the board meeting, so he apologized. And Mr. Gabriel Delastour, CEMED Regional Head for Energy at EBRD. And Mr. Naguib Amin, the ClimaMed Senior Project Leader. And Mr. Jose Lopez, the EE expert at AFD. I hope they are online and if they can open their cameras. I understand some of them will not be with us, but we will make it with those who are surviving with us. And thank you all for being patient till this late hour. We have exceeded almost 1 hour the plan. We see now Dr. Najib with us. Maybe we can start with you, Abdelkader, till the other colleagues join. And based on the Tunisian experience and giving a special focus to the building sector and alliances, which financing solutions and the instruments that you see more effective on the sectoral level when we are addressing the building and the alliances in particular? I know that we all know that you have a good experience in promoting Brusol program, for example, and other. But can you elaborate more on the financial instruments and their effectiveness, and which instrument should fit more the CEMED region, the project countries? Please.
Assalamu alaikum. Permettez-moi, avant de commencer, de remercier meetMED, Recri et le projet meetMED pour l'organisation de cet événement. Je vais partager avec vous l'expérience tunisienne concernant les outils de financement. Pour nous, l'outil le plus important permettant de développer la transition énergétique en Tunisie, surtout que l'ANME travaille depuis 1985, depuis 37 ans sur les programmes d'efficacité énergétique et d'énergie renouvelable. Et l'outil est le Fonds de transition énergétique, Energy Transition Fund. Avec l'adoption du gouvernement tunisien en 2016 des objectifs de 3 objectifs de transition énergétique qu'on doit mettre en place d'ici 2030. Donc, la réduction de 30% de la demande énergétique par rapport à une référence de 2010. L'atteinte de 30% de production d'électricité à travers l'énergie renouvelable en partant de 3% à l'horizon 2030, qui se traduit par l'installation de 3800 MW d'énergie renouvelable en 2030, et surtout la réduction d'intensité carbone de 45% d'ici 2030, où 75% de cet objectif va venir du secteur énergétique, avec 25% qui va venir des énergies renouvelables et 50% qui va venir de l'efficacité énergétique. Donc, pour atteindre ces objectifs, le premier outil financier est le Fonds de transition énergétique qui était avant, jusqu'à 2014, le Fonds national pour la maîtrise de l'énergie. Depuis sa création jusqu'à maintenant, les ressources ont atteint à peu près 150 millions d'euros et on a dépensé sur ce fonds de transition énergétique à peu près 100 millions d'euros jusqu'à maintenant. Pour vous donner un indicateur concernant la valeur ajoutée du FTE, du Fonds de transition énergétique, un dinar dépensé par le Fonds de transition énergétique en Tunisie, il génère 5 dinars d'investissement dans le domaine de la maîtrise de l'énergie. C'est-à-dire, quand on donne 1 dinar à travers le FTE, ça génère 5 dinars d'investissement dans la maîtrise de l'énergie. Ça permet aussi d'éviter 3 dinars de subventions d'État des produits énergétiques, des produits pétroliers, et ça permet de réduire la facture énergétique de 7 dinars. Donc ça, c'est le résultat d'une étude d'évaluation de l'impact du fonds de transition énergétique sur le marché de l'efficacité énergétique des énergies renouvelables en Tunisie. Ce fonds permet d'attribuer à partir de 2017 3 types d'interventions. Le premier, c'est à travers le chapitre 2 du FTE, ce sont des subventions directes accompagnées par des crédits spécifiques pour des actions spécifiques, surtout dans le domaine de l'efficacité énergétique dans le bâtiment ou solar water heater, la promotion de solaire thermique, individuel ou collectif, la promotion de solaire photovoltaïque. Les primes varient entre 70% pour l'immatériel et de 10 à 50% pour l'immatériel, selon les différents types d'actions. Le chapitre 3, et ça c'est la nouveauté du FTE à partir de 2017, donne la possibilité d'avoir des crédits bonifiés à travers le fonds de transition énergétique. Donc des crédits de l'ordre de 100 000 à 200 000 euros pour les projets d'efficacité énergétique, par exemple comme la cogénération ou les projets d'autoproduction, les projets de solaire thermique collectif, en plus d'une participation au capital de 60% pour ce type de projet. On a essayé de résoudre le problème de bouclage de schéma de financement à travers ce mécanisme de financement. Donc, si on fait la simulation, le client, le bénéficiaire, il n'a à mettre que quasiment 8% du coût du projet et les 92 restants seront pris en charge par le crédit FDE, la participation au capital, la subvention, en plus d'un crédit associé parce qu'on n'a pas accès au crédit du FDE que si on a déjà pris un crédit d'une banque commerciale qui est quasiment de même valeur que le crédit FTE. Donc le crédit FTE, c'est un crédit bonifié avec 5 ans de grâce sur 2 ans, avec un taux de sortie de 5% qui est très inférieur au taux de sortie finale du marché en Tunisie. Et en plus de ces 2 chapitres, le FTE, le nouveau FTE, il donne la possibilité de financer en totalité ou en partie des programmes d'aspect national selon le chapitre 4 du FTE. Donc en 2018, le Conseil ministériel a déjà approuvé l'aspect national de 5 programmes d'efficacité énergétique d'énergie renouvelable qui vont être financés à travers le FTE. Je dis programmes nationaux, c'est par exemple les programmes qui sont approuvés, c'est le remplacement de tous les points lumineux de l'éclairage public en Tunisie, 450 000 points lumineux sodium haute pression par des lampes LED. Le programme national d'efficacité énergétique dans les mosquées en Tunisie, ça va toucher 6 000 mosquées en Tunisie en réalisant une action de relamping au LED, des installations photovoltaïques pour chaque mosquée, en plus d'adopter une climatisation efficace pour chaque mosquée. Le 3e programme national, la réalisation des audits énergétiques dans toutes les municipalités tunisiennes, les 350 municipalités en Tunisie, qui va toucher le transport, le bâtiment et tout, et définir des plans d'action. Le 4e programme national approuvé par le Conseil ministériel de 2018, c'est le programme Prosol ELEC social pour installer pour les familles qui ont des faibles revenus et qui consomment moins de 1200 kWh par an des systèmes photovoltaïques gratuitement. Donc ça va toucher 800 000 familles en Tunisie qui va être aussi pris en charge par le FTE, le Fonds de transition énergétique. En plus, il y a le programme de Promo-Isol, le programme de promotion de l'isolation des toitures en Tunisie avec un objectif d'isoler les toitures de 65 000 logements en Tunisie. Et le programme PromoLED, qui est un programme national, validé par le Conseil ministériel aussi, et qui vise le remplacement de 4 millions de lampes LBC ou incandescence par des lampes LED énergétiquement efficaces. Nous allons commencer ces 5 programmes nationaux par des programmes pilotes en 2022, donc qui va viser la ville, toute une ville où on a donné le slogan de ville amie de l'environnement, c'est la ville de Tozeur. Donc à la ville de Tozeur, on va mettre l'isolation des 10 000 toitures, va équiper tous les mosquées de la ville de Tozeur, qui sont 150 mosquées par les systèmes photovoltaïques et les lampes LED, ainsi que par une climatisation efficace. On va aussi commencer à réaliser un projet pilote de changement de réfrigérateurs, des anciens réfrigérateurs qui datent de plus que 15 ans par des réfrigérateurs de classe 1. Et ça, on parle du programme Promo Frigo qui vise à remplacer 400 000 réfrigérateurs. Donc, avec cet outil national, et nous avons eu un appui et une complémentarité à travers des lignes de financement internationaux, surtout une aide de la part, une subvention de la part de l'Union européenne de 50 millions d'euros pour appuyer les projets qui sont faits à travers le FTE, en plus d'une ligne de crédit de 73 millions d'euros à travers l'AFD pour financer tous les projets d'efficacité énergétique et énergie renouvelable dans le secteur des hôteliers et les PME. En plus, on va commencer dès ce mois-ci un nouveau projet qui s'appelle Power Tunisie avec un don de 60 millions de dollars à travers l'USAID. En plus de plusieurs programmes et surtout un programme GEF.
Thank you. Shukran, Abdul Qadir. Another 2 minutes?
Just 2 words.
Please,
Thank you. سامحوني كان طولت بس I want to share with you the Tunisian experience maybe so just to say 2 words about the project of lighting energy transition financed by the GEF also. So they will assist us to pass to efficient lighting in Tunisia with a project of 2 million euro, which start this year. So, and he will also assist us in the other project of promo LED, okay? And the Italian cooperation will assist us in the 2 project Promo Isol and the Promo Frigo with 2 million euro of project 3PA.
That's great. In fact, several projects and initiatives, and Tunisia is leading by example. In fact, Tunisia has been the leading Arab country in energy efficiency based on the CRE analysis for several years. And we are proud that you are with us, and we have seen that you are leading by example, so the public building are taking a good stock of your programs. Also, the scrapping of old refrigerators is an interesting part that we are addressing also within the meetMED. So would be very keen to discuss more with you how we can build on that for the regional replication in other countries, inshallah. Thank you very much, Abdul Qadir. It was quite informative and interesting discussion and covering a lot of issues. And now I'd like to move to Dr. Hassan. And Dr. Hassan, thank you very much for continuing with us. You and Dr. Najib, I know that you are, we have kept you for a long time. And being from EIB, I'd like to understand your perspective on how IFIs can be, in fact, engaged with the national programs and the local banking sectors. What is your perspective especially with the focus on energy efficiency solutions? We understand you are experienced a lot in the renewable energy, but we understand also that you have moved in the past few years into energy efficiency. So how IFIs and regional actors can engage also local banks and other national institutions to ensure access to finance? What are the business models that you would consider as the most suitable for the region, and how to build the ecosystem around that? So please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and I hope you can hear me well. Thank you for this very kind invitation. It's a wonderful event, and I hope that you will take away a lot of useful messages from all the speakers. A lot has already been said today, so I hope I will not repeat some of the messages from earlier speakers. But indeed, the place or the role of IFIs is very important in this bigger picture. First of all, to mention that EIB is the largest multilateral development lender in the world. And in terms of energy efficiency, the volume is around 5 to 6 billion euros per year. So this is quite significant, and it's growing. It's going up and down, but it is quite significant. And 2/3 of this is in the building sector. So again, this is to show that we do realize where the challenge is. We are mainly investing or financing European projects, but there are enough programs and funds and initiatives and instruments outside of Europe, including in the MENA region. So the challenges have already been identified by the previous speakers. What I would focus on is, of course, the whole issue of de-risking those investments that are very fragmented, and there is the absolute need for aggregation. So IFIs are fairly large, and we cannot go down to the level of individual small projects, especially when it's buildings related. So there is the need to collaborate, and this is through local banks or other financial intermediaries like funds, for instance. So in that case, and in general, our overall approach is to look at an integrated approach. What it means is, often the buzzword for this is blending different instruments, in addition to the very standard loans that we offer, which by themselves needs to be more attractive with preferential rates and so on. There are other tools that are weaved into the package. Most notably, there is the guarantees, or the real de-risking mechanism is to have a guarantee that is from a certain source. Often it could be the national government, national promotional bank. In, again, the southern neighborhood, this is often the European Union. And there is the technical assistance component. I would stress the importance of technical assistance because, as was said earlier, those local partners need to build their capacity to identify and evaluate energy efficiency projects, to be more confident in how they attribute to the risk levels, because usually they are elevated, and sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. And then also to be able to follow through with the projects, to basically lower the transaction costs, another issue that was mentioned earlier, and more confidently on lend to their clients. So who are their clients? We already heard it could be public sector, but very often the challenge is with SME sector or individuals, residential buildings. So this is a challenge that no single solution can address. Again, we need integrated approaches where all of these tools, loans, guarantees, and technical assistance can work together. In addition, what national usually programs do is provide incentives. They can be grants and other financial incentives. It could be tax rebates and other instruments like this. So we would like to have all the players, all the stakeholders involved at the outset. Very often we implement European policy as the EIB. Very often there are specific initiatives that are targeted at the southern neighborhood region, MENA region. So the EIB then is really ready to support these initiatives. We don't have that many currently. There is one fund that you may have heard of, Green for Growth, that is an example. It's actually a good example where through a fund, the EIB has taken a quasi-equity share of this fund, specifically to support renewable energy, but also energy efficiency in Northern Africa, the West and South Mediterranean. The example is good because it contains exactly those elements, not just the loan, that it is preferential rates, but then there is a level of guarantee, and there is a lot of training, capacity building for the fund manager, but also for these end clients. And end clients could be, again, very different types of entities. To mention another category that I think is maybe underutilized in your region would be the ESCO model, where you have an energy service company, which in itself acts as an aggregator. So this is a route that could deliver a lot of results in this particular case. And generally, the issue is that the market is not operating at its full potential with energy efficiency. There are all the barriers that we mentioned. So the EIB's experience in Europe, which is where we mostly work, other than this example I gave for the MENA region, is exactly that where we provide technical assistance, the leverage of then investments and the reduction in defaults of these projects is not just significant, it's enormous. In terms of leverage, one example is a technical assistance program that some of you may have heard of called ELENA. There, the leverage is usually 1 to 30, which means for every euro of technical assistance, the investment achieved at the end is 30 euros, 30 times more. And we have a similar product like the Green for Growth Fund that I already mentioned in Europe, called Private Finance for Energy Efficiency, where again we work with partner retail banks or funds, where we not only provide some capital, but actually a very significant guarantee element for them to have the confidence that if some projects do not perform, they will not bear all the burden of the losses, and technical assistance to engage and upskill the financial intermediaries themselves, as I said, to be able to evaluate, promote, and then follow through with their projects. So this is in summary. I think if you have questions, that's probably the better way to continue the discussion. But I hope I addressed your question. Thank you.
You give an excellent, in fact, overview of what banks looks for in especially IFIs when they are engaging on the national level, and the concept of aggregation and having different coexistence of different modalities, loans, guarantees, and technical assistance are crucial. And in fact, we fully support this point of view, and in fact, we'd work on all of this and allow us to engage with you later on discussion on how to make them more effective to untap the potential for energy efficiency in the region. Thank you very much. And now we move to Dr. Najib. Dr. Najib, I'd like to switch to Arabic because most of the attendees here in Arabic, or should I continue in English? Maybe I would continue in English because of our guests here, they do not have the mics, okay? Dr. Najib, based on your long experience and being a leader of several important projects, especially ending with those focusing on cities, what regionally coordinated actions you would think most important for the region right now? What are the lessons learned and how we get, in fact, this scaled up into the regional level? And of course, I'd like to reflect on other issues, especially that typically our region is, I mean the southern Mediterranean side, is having such central planning. So when we are engaging in the city level, it is somehow not really captured for example, in the NDCs, in the national action plans, and so on. So I'd like you to reflect on all the aspects, because you are the last speaker for today, and I'll have a round of questions to all of you at the end of this session. But I'll مسك الختام, your good self, Dr. Najib.
So would you like me to proceed in Arabic or in
English?
It
Because
is
our
up to you,
guests,
Dr. Khalid.
they do not have the mic. I'll go ahead with in English. Thank you very much.
Right. In fact, I will continue what probably my colleague, my project manager, Mrs. Cristina Casella, started. It's basically the whole project now is a continuity of ClimaMed, and ClimaMed has started in 2018, and we have three major components. One of them is the NDC mainstreaming, and the technical way we do it is to establish in each country either regional or national coordination groups that represent the key agencies of the country, key government agencies, and work with them primarily to decentralize climate action at national level, but not only, and to be partner with them. And through this NDC programming, we prepare with these actors a climate action mainstreaming at national level. Basically, it's a strategy document through which those national authorities agree to take steps to mainstream climate action. So we have this first document. Then in second level, we work with cities. We have been extensively working with cities, preparing the sustainable energy and climate action plans. And we are about, in few weeks, about to produce some for additional 90 cities or 92 cities, and have before that prepared for 30 cities. The way we do it is actually, obviously, it is a huge amount, and the only way to do it and to produce it is to work very closely with the city's technicians to prepare action plans. And at the third level, we are preparing ways, we are thinking of ways to finance them, to finance primarily, of course, those national climate, those local level climate actions who are defined in those plans. And so basically the problematic here, major one, is to how to facilitate the non-bankability of cities. And the way we do it in ClimaMed, the outcome of this is first to prepare very detailed, successful set of 16 or 17 pilot projects that can be taken and replicated, that was already implemented in climate action. When we talk climate action, obviously, primarily this is energy efficiency or sustainable energy action. So we have those pilot projects. We also prepare what we call a guidebook on how to finance climate action on city levels. Basically, we tell countries with the national and regional coordination groups, these are ways that we identify together to facilitate the funding of climate projects and energy projects at cities level. Here we are, take it, and you have the 16 projects for there. But most interestingly, and that we discovered after years now, we are about to finish this stage of ClimaMed, is that the cities that has either prepared climate action plan, CAPs already, and are preparing it without finalizing it now, have already gone through a long way in implementing them. What I'm getting at is that a city or a local authority or governorate has a plan that is prepared by them and in most cases approved when the approval is needed by local council. They have a tool that facilitates the funding of all of that. And so from here, we said for the extension part of the ClimaMed, there's two parts again. One is the C4C, Climate for City projects. The cities that have prepared the CCAPs were given the opportunity by an EU special fund to apply to implement them for funds up to 50% of the cost of the actions, from 2.5 million from 5 million to 7 million, i.e. they got the chance to get a grant from 2.5 to 3.5 million. And now we have 6 cities who are benefiting from these grants up to, projects up to 39 million euros, if I'm not mistaken, exactly the figure. So what I'm getting at the end is we have here tools, and funding and climate finance cannot be successful without plans, and good plans, including, of course, financial schemes that both national authorities and cities can use and say, these can be strategic plans in terms like Marco. He has a plan for 20 years to reduce emissions, but also to prepare a massive amount of urban climate-related projects. You have the engagement by plan with the national authority. You also have, with all these tools, we are most importantly facilitating the work of the IFIs. Because through the preparation of those pilot projects that I talked about, we extensively worked with national banks and IFIs, trying to find ways, what we call a third-party finance system. Obviously, the IFIs, the national, have that measured, non-suitability of financing very small projects at the city levels, but they can finance large sums through national authorities, through national banks, who can distribute them into the cities to implement those SECAP's activity. And this, we believe, we have already examples in every country to formulate this kind of thing. So it's a whole package of planning tools, of examples, of work, facilitation of IFIs and national banks. And finally, in each country, we are creating what we call a SECAP support mechanism, which is a national organizational mechanism that would facilitate the preparation of the plan, their implementation, and their financing. Okay. Now, for the coming years, with the extension of the project, we will consolidate all of this. All of this will be further consolidated to be very active and very implementable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Najib. Quite informative, and in fact, I have taken many notes. But what you remind me with is the statement that if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. And here comes the role of planning that Dr. Najib highlighted, and how to engage local actors. And I'd like now to conclude the session with one question to all attendees among the panel here, online and in person. And I'll start with the online colleagues. I would start, the question is, what are the key messages that you wish to send to the upcoming COP? Let me start with Dr. Asen and then Dr. Najib, and then I'll take the floor here. And may I seize this opportunity to thank you very much for your time with us and being patient all this day. Thank you very much. Dr. Asen, please. The key message.
Well, I have attended many of the COPs, and the process is slow and not always very fruitful. Energy efficiency, however, remains a constant in terms of the scale of the opportunity to contribute to reducing emissions. It should not be underestimated. On the contrary, it should be ever more reinforced. Now, with the energy prices going up for a number of reasons, it makes even more sense to push for energy efficiency. What is adopted in Europe as the energy efficiency first principle that we already heard about needs to probably become a global motto. And I think this is kind of my simple message that I would like to keep it simple. Usually has a bigger impact than going into a lot of elaborate words.
A first principle to become global. Do not underestimate energy efficiency on the national level. Dr. Najib, in 2 minutes, what is your key messages? What are your key messages? I'm sorry. You are muted, I assume. Dr. Najib, you are muted.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I think that in each of the countries we work with, the NDC ambassadors, if we can call them, they are doing extraordinary work. I mean, very, very innovative, very spearheading, very difficult climate action work, which includes energy and sustainable energy. The time now, and for COP27, is to mainstream this action, to go and involve as much as possible relevant national actors, government authority agencies, and of course cities, and help them plan climate actions within their mainstream activities themselves. For instance, we would work with the country, Ministry of Planning or Ministry of Agriculture, and support them to have concrete programs within their programs to mainstream climate action. This is actually the step we have to go down. The idea has passed, the need is there. Another thing is, let us look at the cities from their capacity to do things, because we seem to have this idea that the city are sitting there waiting for money to be given to them. But no, they did a lot of things within their own budget, within partnership with private sectors, within, of course, the other kind of taxation and elevation of funds. Let us look at this and help them to come with more innovative, down-to-ground solution for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Najib. So now you have 2 main points. Mainstreaming activities on sectoral level as much as we can. And this is sector coupling, of course, or sector integration. And improving cities' capacities to plan and accelerate the uptake of energy efficiency measure. And of course, part of this is access to finance. May I see this opportunity to thank our, I would say our speaker, our panelist on the online. And now I'll move to those who are sitting for almost 45 minutes. And I'll start with Roberta and move forward asking the same question. What are the key messages that you wish to send to the COP? And
okay. I've heard a lot of messages today, and I like very much the integrated approaches. Loans, guarantees, technical assistance is needed. We need to have multi-level stakeholders dialogue, starting from national policymakers and going to the local, to the action plans that are needed for climate and energy. So that's very important. And from IFIs to go to local banks, to go to commercial banks, to involve them to have, because in energy efficiency, there are fragmented investments compared to the IFIs. And it's very important. Also, I've heard, and I forgot, the private finance for energy efficiency program in Europe, from IFIs to finance local banks. So this is very important, an approach that must be taken here. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. So integrated approach, multilateral stakeholder dialogues and discussions, and engaging local banks. 3 takeaways. Corina, please, go ahead.
Thank you so much. About my opinion is a better use on available research, dialogue among stakeholders, also about the financing to shift from good intention to real actions, and concrete results from exemplary demo action, such as those of meetMED 2, to be adapted, replicated, and scaled up in other countries.
Thank you very much. So, dialogue and moving to real actions. These are the key words. Alessandro, you are the expert here. Go ahead.
Well, and also given my role in Work Package 2, I think that synergies with other initiatives, institutions, and local stakeholders, regional stakeholders are essential to strengthen, to mutually reinforce the both sides, that is financing, but also the practical actions from all the stakeholders involved, and also to enlarge the network of our project and of our initiatives to multiply the messages and the dissemination of our activities. Also from the financing point of view, synergies are essential, and also dialogue. And again, as suggested by Corinna, dialogue and synergies are essential for this project and for the to meet the targets we know in terms of decarbonization. Thanks.
Thank you, Alessandro. So engaging regional stakeholders to harmonize, to align, to multiply, and to synergize. Thank you very much, Alessandro. And now, Abdul Qadir. يلا مسك الختام في البانل today.
شكرا. My key message is that the audience, please think to develop a sustainable financial instrument adapted to your national context. This is the important, okay? The second message, as said Roberta, is to install a real dialogue between all the key operators, all the operators in the country. The government cannot do everything, or the agency cannot do everything with their own. So we need a real private-public partnership with a win-win approach. So, and we need to, how to say it, on a besoin d'impliquer aussi tout ce qui est société civile et aussi, ainsi que la recherche scientifique dans la réflexion et la réalisation des programmes d'efficacité énergétique et d'énergie renouvelable. Et merci.
Shukran, Abdul Qadir. Thank you, Abdul Qadir. In fact, so sustainable financial instruments that are somehow adapted to the local context, dialogue among key stakeholders, including public, private, I assume also NGO and civil society would be part of this. And finally, the scientific research and innovation and technological development, how this would reflect on the future of our communities and cities and countries on the higher level. In fact, with this, I assume we had heard today several key messages that are of high importance, and would be glad, together with our partners and meetMED and the beneficiary countries, we would convey them for sure, to summarize them, share them with you, and then convey them to the COP together with other messages that are going to be collected over the coming days. I'll now give the floor, I'm concluding now, and I'm giving the floor to Roberta to end this beautiful day with you. Thank you for being with us all the day, and I look forward to meeting you again in the near future. Roberta, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maged. I would just like to conclude wishing that in the next meetMED or in the next meeting before COP27, we'll have some national roundtables in the meetMED project with some countries. We foresee to have 5 national roundtables. It's very important, and I hope that many of our beneficiary countries will have the opportunity to start this dialogue inside the different countries. Thank you very much. Of course, also at regional level, but let's start at national level. Thank you very much, and see you tomorrow.